Oh no, I'm gonna
Oh,
cough again.
hey,
already.
Lisa.
Hey, Cristina.
Oh, Lisa's a little under the weather today. Oh, must have been all that partying last weekend.
It started with the sore throat, and I thought, well, I was singing with the band at the wedding, so that's why my throat is sore. Plus loud music, screaming across the crowd to talk to each other. Yeah, no, then the sore throat turned into a stuffy nose, and then this weird sounding voice, and then today of all days the coughing started. So I'm trying really hard. I have my nose wiping
Toilet paper.
apparatus.
Who needs Kleenex? TP for the
this
win.
is a sad state of affairs. Yeah, no, I go through way too much of it to buy Kleenex. Like right now my nose is so, I know I look fabulous.
You look awesome. You wouldn't even know that you're feeling under the weather
until you hear me say something, and then it's like, that's
and then
weird.
When you start hacking, that's it.
That's
usually
hacking
a
is a
giveaway.
Giveaway. Anyway, how are you doing?
I'm good, but probably it's your body telling you need to like slow down a bit, because you've had a really hectic last 4-6 weeks of all your friends getting married all at the same time, and you doing all these cakes
That's
and
been a year.
graduations and all this other stuff that you continue to do. And I know you had a bit of an off week this week. You didn't have a whole lot of you didn't have any weddings this weekend, so I think it's your
I forgot about a couple things that I do have to bake for Monday.
Oh,
but I'll do them, but they're not wedding cakes.
Well, that's good. There's a little less pressure with, there's so much pressure with wedding cakes. So
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Aw, but I hope you feel better.
Thank you. I'm excited about this podcast. Oh, what have you been baking?
Well, thanks for asking. So, I've been to Japan recently, and one of the things that I really wanted to try when we were there was a Japanese cheesecake, one of those jiggly wiggly ones, right? And I
sorry, I don't like I don't like the idea of it. I probably would like it, but
or is it the
I don't like jiggle. No, don't.
Stop jiggling. Jiggle, 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 wiggle, wiggle. Okay, I'll stop. Okay. So
did you make a jiggly cake?
I did. I had to make two, actually, because my first one didn't. Well, you know what? And even the second one didn't turn out as well, but I'm going to stop there. We've got a barbecue to go to tomorrow, and I thought this is a great opportunity. And my husband loves the Japanese style cheesecake as well. And so he was super excited that I was making this for our barbecue tomorrow. And the first one, I think my oven temperature was a little high, so it cracked. They're not supposed to crack like regular cheesecakes, right? So it's like crack. Right. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, I can't bring this. And he's like, just top it with something. And I'm like, yeah, I could probably do like a cherry compote with it, because the base is, I made a lemon one. Anyway, so it came out of the oven.
You and your
I love lemon. It's one of my favorite. I mean, life without lemons. So yeah,
it's pretty good.
I like when life gives you lemons. I like when life gives you lemons. I'm happy when that happens.
Make lemonade. Just be happy of the lemons.
So many other things you can make with the lemons. Anyway,
it's true.
So the first one comes out of the oven, and I'm like, yeah, it's not exactly what I was hoping it was going to look like, but and it also compacted a fair bit. So it's a kind of similar idea as like a souffle, right? So you get that huge rise in the oven, and then it kind of, as it starts cooling off, it kind of just starts compacting a little. But I tried the texture. It tasted
normal.
great.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Okay. Well, the ones that we had, mind you, we only found one place that actually sold Japanese cheesecake. So I'm not sure if it's a regional thing or what have you, but the one that we tasted was almost a really good go between a nice souffle texture and like a lighter, maybe almost like a basket kind of cheesecake kind of idea, kind of between those two.
Yeah.
So this one was a little bit more dense because it had come down a fair bit, but it was still light enough that it was way better.
Come here.
It was way better. That's okay. Way better than
it was still.
the regular cheesecake, American style cheesecake, or
Yeah, I was gonna say it's weird to me that you are trying making cheesecakes when you dislike cheesecake, but now you've discovered you like Basque cheesecake, and now you've discovered that you like jiggly cheesecake.
Japanese cheesecake. Yes. But
Japanese Japanese
it's
cake.
not your typical what you would normally have in like either one of those no bake
Yeah.
ones
Hmm.
or a baked cheesecake, like a American style baked cheesecake, which
It's just
is
different.
off
Yeah.
base for me as well. But the Japanese style,
Yeah.
which is a little bit lighter, and then the Basque cheesecake, which is like that really lovely, silky, creamy,
Creamy
oh,
texture.
amazing. So yeah, so I'm happy. So
That's awesome.
first one didn't work out. I had to do a second one. So it's just come out of the oven. It had some crack as
Okay.
well, but I adjusted a few things as well. I didn't beat my egg whites quite as much. I think they were a little
Yeah.
overbeaten for the first one, and then I think it's my oven temperature that's just a little too high. So I'll
Oh
keep
yeah.
playing with that. My husband will not mind at all with having these cheesecakes.
Just keep eating it.
Yeah, yeah. How about
That's
you? Now
funny.
I know you've been under the weather, but have you done any
Yeah.
baking this week? Of course you have.
Funny you should ask.
What'd you do?
I baked a little something for you.
Did you make
I
butter tarts? They look awesome. With
made butter
now
tarts.
they look like they might have raisins.
I
That's a
gotta
bit too much
say,
of a close up on me, but I'm trying to
please, you're trying to
I'm trying
see
to see them.
them. Okay, here. Let me show you this.
Okay. They
My
look
first time
awesome
ever
though.
making butter tarts, and as a nod to Katie from last
Mhm.
week, these are gluten and dairy free butter tarts. Look
Nice.
at the
The
crust.
crust looks
Look at how
amazing.
caramelized it is. It got so caramelized from all that caramel filling oozing out and soaking into it. And oh my goodness, these are to die for.
Are
So I soaked the raisins in rum overnight.
of course you did.
That was my little addition to it. And because it was a gluten free pie crust, I didn't have to chill the dough or anything. It was super easy. And then when I took them out, I mean, they bubbled
Yeah.
all over the place. And I was like, oh, I ruined them. But oh my goodness. And I had 12 of them. I now have five. I was like, Chris, you cannot eat those because I have to give. Okay, guys, I'm working here. Can you go play elsewhere? Shush. Shush. Shush.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
So I said to Chris, "This is my surprise for Christina. You have to leave them." And he's like, "Well, you can make more." And I was like, "No, you leave them." And then I was like, "Okay, well, leave me at least six."
You have five.
So he left me
Oh,
seven. I have five because I had to eat.
well, you had to test them.
Stop eating
You
them.
had to test them,
They're so good.
right? 'Cause-
Yeah, and then the one of the midwives that I work with, she really wanted to try it. She didn't believe that gluten-free could be tasty. So I brought her a butter tart this morning and that was her breakfast and she was so excited.
nice.
She loved it.
Now, here's a
Dogs,
question for
quiet.
you. So the with
Yes.
the butter tart test that you did do here, did you put raisins in all of them,
Yes.
or did you do half
Yep.
of them with raisins, half without, and then taste them side by side?
No, I didn't feel like they would get full enough if they didn't have the raisins in if
Mm,
yeah, without the raisins
okay,
in them. So
gotcha.
no, I just did them all. I really wanted the raisins.
Well, because we
So
now know that you are a complete convert now. It's not
I
even
am, but
it's
I
not
mean,
even like,
look at this. Like, look at that
well, I think
yumminess.
some people they do look stunning. They look gorgeous. I mean, look at the glistening filling on that, and oh, I wish I had one
Mm.
too. Oh, that looks so
It
good.
has raisins in it.
I know, but
You
you
want my
know,
raisins?
they're rum soaked. I might make an exception. And it's not like, okay, so well, if I happen to be given a butter tart, especially if I'm over at somebody's
Mm-hmm.
house and that's what they have, and they have
Mm-hmm.
raisins in them, I can eat them. I'm not
You'll
going to
eat it.
die.
Yeah.
So,
No.
will I enjoy it as much as if it didn't have any
Mm-hmm.
raisins, or maybe I actually
This one you want?
I'm sure it'll be fine. I actually really like currants in my in my
That's
butter
true.
tarts.
Yeah.
So, because they're a little bit smaller and they have a little bit more texture, I find with them. They're not just like a you
Yeah.
bite into it because
I
raisins
like
are
the
big.
squish.
Yeah, see, you like the squish. I like more
Yeah.
like the little
Yeah.
crunchy. I like
Little
crunchiness.
nibbly.
Yeah, nibbly. Yeah,
I
like
don't.
the
I don't.
yeah.
That's why I didn't put pecans in them because this recipe called for pecans, and I said no.
No.
That's why I have lots of raisins in there. Anyway,
Cool.
so there you go.
There you go.
We should probably get on and introduce our guests because they are waiting anxiously for us to send an invite.
You should totally do that soon. I think,
Yeah.
well, how should we introduce them? So today we actually have not one, but two special guests. We are super excited. You guys, if you're huge fans of Great Canadian Baking Show, and if you watch the Great British Bake Off, the Australian Bake Off, you will know these people because they are probably a podcast that you listen to. From the Washing Up podcast, Chris and Kristie, all the way from Australia. These two are a scream.
Hello. I come
Hello.
into Nickelback.
Oh no.
Nickelback.
It's your entry music.
One good Canadian band at the tea party. Like,
The only reason we're listening to Nickelback is in honor of you guys.
oh,
We figured we had to start there.
We just thought it would be
Yeah.
brilliant.
Chris, you don't look impressed already. You're going,
No,
why the hell did I decide this was a good idea?
and we haven't even got to matcha, so this is not even there
You
yet.
know we're getting a matcha.
I am not going to say.
Oh, I know we're getting there. That's it.
I won't say anything about
You
matcha.
won't?
Oh,
Actually, I'm not a
yeah.
huge fan of matcha. I like green tea,
I don't care.
but I do not like it in my baked goods at all.
no.
That's a win. Because it's terrible,
I don't like
There's
And
other
it's
things
overused.
to
in my
put
baked
into
goods.
and
baked
we'll get into
No.
it. But my reasons behind both of them are overuse and
Mm.
lack of other options. So let's just put it in there because it sounds fancy.
Well, season 6 just made it overused.
Well,
basically, as far as I'm concerned.
Season 6 did, but for us, having done
Christy agrees
so
with me.
much, it's been
Yeah.
out for years. It's been out for
Yes,
years.
for sure. All right.
Fair enough.
Well, we've already done a little bit of an introduction of you guys. You'll have to forgive me. I'm very much trying to. You guys, I have told you. Be quiet.
Sorry, I'll
Come here.
stop growling.
She wasn't talking to you guys. Not yet, anyway.
Okay, so mine it is. Mine it is. We're in a box.
They've just decided that this time it's time to play and fight. But okay, 2 of them have settled down. The other 2 are fighting with each other.
Does your
Anyway,
Acast give you the option of how you set the screens up, or is it going to be this narrowed in box? Just so enough we're leaning.
Yeah, because we can't see you guys. There you go. That's better. Can you do the whole
I have
podcast
options.
just like
It's
that?
Wonderful.
No,
It's
do
nice
it
to
half
have
half,
you.
like an ABBA kind of thing. Oh god.
yeah, exactly.
One of us has to face.
Can you just merge?
Something.
Just
One of
for
us
the-
has to do this. One of us has to do this at all
Emoji.
times.
Maybe if I can go this way because like I don't have my makeup on.
That's fine.
you need some different shadows.
That's all right. We'll lean in.
We're good.
Okay, cool.
You're very brave. You
like each other?
You look beautiful. Your hair is
Mhm.
gorgeous.
Oh, this is me trying to hold some curl, and I'm going to Snatch Game tonight,
You,
like
Kristen.
Snatch Game Live. So I'm trying to look presentable to drag queens.
Ah.
Yeah, a lot of
Fun.
RuPaul
Oh, excellent.
drag queens. Yeah. So,
Oh, that is awesome. I actually saw the RuPaul drag
You look
drag race
amazing.
in Vegas with a couple of my girlfriends.
Cool.
What a blast. Oh my goodness. They're so talented.
Hmm.
And one of the performers looked exactly like Britney Spears, sounded like Britney Spears, looked like her, performed, moved like her. Crazy.
such an art form. Like, so tonight it's Snatch Game, so it's like all the kind of like best of the best doing their impersonations. So there's Ben de la Creme and the Vivian doing Trump and Bag of Chips doing Margaret Thatcher, which is going to be wonderful. So yeah.
How fun. How fun.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm getting distracted because some neighbor is doing something that buzzes. of course, when we're doing a podcast.
That's okay.
So they've stopped now. Thank God.
Well, I can't
No,
hear
Good,
it.
good. That's great. Good.
Turned it all
Yeah.
Oh my God,
It's-
okay.
And
I'm definitely wondering what the buzzing is.
Well,
No,
doesn't
it's-
sound like a garden instrument, so
Hmm.
And as I said to you, yesterday, like the benefit of our microphone is that we don't need the headphones because it stops all feedback. So you don't get fallback.
Yeah, it's great. That's
Perfect.
fantastic.
Nice.
Okay,
Let's
let's
do
get
this.
into it because we have a lot of questions for you guys because I've been an avid listener for quite some time, and now Cristina is ending up being an avid listener as well.
You guys are freaking hilarious. I should have
let's
listened
do
to you
the-
earlier.
Well, that's what we always say.
Where were you all my life?
We've been here. We've been here forever.
Why don't we do the
we'll do that on
Why don't we do the introduction that I discussed yesterday with the continuity of name?
Yes. So the intro
It
is that
makes me feel so
my name's
sad.
Chris.
You-
I'm Kristie. I'm
You're
Cristina.
Cristina.
And then Lisa, which doesn't work.
you say, and I'm Cristina.
One of these things is not
Okay.
like the other, huh? We got a Chris, we got a Kristie, we got a Cristina, and then we have Lisa.
yes.
Okay.
Lisa.
Okay, that's
But
perfect.
that's okay.
Give
We
us a
still
cue in
love
and we'll
you.
start.
Well, get on with it, will you?
Give us a cue in and we'll start.
Hurry up. And go for it.
My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
I'm Cristina.
And I'm just Lisa.
That's your fault.
Should change my name. I have a Chris. I have a Chris, but he's not
That's
here.
true. You do
It's
have
not
a
my
Chris.
fault.
Yeah.
Well, you could have
Anyway.
said I've got one.
I do have a Chris. Yes.
We can call you Chris Lisa.
I mean, yeah.
There's a nice ring to that.
Chris, Lisa. Crisa.
Crisa.
Krista.
I'm okay with it. Just don't call me late for dinner, as my dad always used to say.
Da-ding-ching.
So welcome to the Baking Scraps podcast, the Washing Up podcast. I am so excited to have you both here today.
Oh, it's a joy.
And I'm excited to have introduced you to Cristina. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that you're excited to be here too.
It'd be a bit weird if it wasn't.
So basically, I would wonder why you were here, but you're under some kind of duress, I guess. We had them write it into your contract.
Wandered in.
See, now they're growling again.
Did you guys
I
sign your
am
NDAs?
recovering from some sort of ailment.
That growling needs to stay. The growling needs to stay.
CBC is going to be on our.
that is CBC.
I have 4 dogs. I cannot help it.
Oh.
They're going to be growling, and I'm going to be growling too. Anyway, my voice is not usually like this. This is the tail end of sickness voice, and I thought I was going to be okay, and then the coughing started today. So if I have to suddenly mute myself and move forward, but you guys, you can carry on your conversation. We both have our same list of questions, and I'm sure that there's absolutely no problem with you guys being able to talk.
Oh, we can just go. That's right.
Fill the
It's all
time.
good.
Just take over the show. It's all
Yeah,
good.
so
Yeah, I know, you
Baking
absolutely
Scraps
can.
with Chris and Kristie anyway.
We're invading Canada. It's a friendly
Oh!
invasion.
One podcast at a time.
Podcast at a time. Steve Dangle, we're coming for you.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
That's all right. Bring the audience. Well, tell us, for those who aren't familiar with the Washing Up podcast,
Mhm.
and even for those who are familiar, give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Cool. Well, we're a married couple.
Shut up!
Not you. Not you. You guys keep talking.
Right, we're out. Bye.
Well, that was the shortest podcast in Baking
Take
Scraps history.
Well, we're a married couple from Sydney, Australia. Oh, sorry, Miscellaneous City,
Miscellaneous City. Don't
Australia.
Miscellaneous city.
Otherwise, the Melbourne people might get
upset
with us for
So-
living in a miscellaneous city.
Yep.
Is that what it is? I wondered why you always said that.
Yeah. Melbourne doesn't like anything that's not Melbourne.
And Sydney doesn't like anything that's Melbourne. So it's this really, it's this really
We
weird
like their
competition.
coffee though.
Yeah, well, I like coffee in general.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Same thing with like Vancouver and Toronto, really.
I thought it's just the
So-
GTA and everywhere.
Pretty much. Anywhere
Yeah,
else in
pretty much.
Canada.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah, no. So we've been doing the pod. We are, as our bio says, we are actually the longest running Bake Off podcast on the planet.
Take that, all you other
yeah,
podcasts.
all of you, we got you.
That was our World Dominion.
All of them.
All of them.
That was our main motivation.
All of us.
Yeah.
And it
That
sort of
includes us too. We're the shortest.
yeah, well done.
So we average it out, and we're the average.
We're the middle.
We're the middle.
We're the middle.
We're the
Between
average.
the two of us, we're the middle.
We're 100% average.
That's a tagline right there. Baking scraps. We're average.
We're average.
We'll add that to us too.
Yeah,
We
well,
can share the tagline.
We'll share it.
We can
So-
share, exactly. We're
like it.
Canadian, we like to share.
We began actually covering another Bake Off podcast. So the joke
On a whim.
So the joke was that there was another baking podcast and that was doing Australian Bake Off, and we decided to do a wrap up show of their podcast as a bit of a joke.
Yeah, because we knew that we wanted to do a podcast together, but we didn't know what to do it about, and we didn't want to tread on toes because we're like, oh, we love Bake Off, but we didn't want to do like another Australian Bake Off because there's not a huge. Well, there wasn't back then a huge audience.
So we asked them, and we're not going to name them, but we did ask them, and they said, "Yep, cool, not a problem." And then we did a recap show of their podcast, but it gradually started bleeding in more and more that we were doing the recaps, and then we started speaking to the bakers, and then they stopped their podcast.
They did get like offered, I don't know, TV contracts and stuff for other things, so they kind of went on to
other things,
more professional things,
and
whereas we
took up the Bake Off baton and have been doing it ever since.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you guys have recorded almost 400, almost 400 episodes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And we apologize deeply to the world and to posterity. To future generations.
I have so much to catch up to.
You really do.
I really do.
I can give you a starting point if you want. May I suggest just pick the Vergies, which is our award show. If you need to start somewhere, start with the Vergies and go from there. Especially our first international Vergies, which came from Regina Casino car park.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you been to Regina before?
No.
Oh.
This is a radio play. Sorry, everyone. I've got a bit of a growl in my throat. Oh my god, it's so, how does it make that noise?
Just wants to ask some questions.
Yeah.
His name's Chewy.
Oh, that's appropriate.
I've got layer buns kind of going. So
We're here right now. Go.
No. Go. Regina.
No, I was gonna say,
we basically do a radio play. An in-depth, and thank you Google Maps and the internet, because we can make it really in-depth that some people thought that we were actually there.
We had bakers from the season we did that award show from, who messaged me because I was doing a lot of things, like we were tagging the Instagram where we were and all those sorts of things, and putting all my post places up being in Regina. And I had at least 3 bakers from the season of Bake Off we were covering who messaged me and went, "Why didn't you tell us you're in town? We should have hung out. This could have been cool." I went, "Our dog was barking in the background. Do you really think we brought him over via aeroplane, which is what we said? We flew him first class." It's
Some people do.
It was a Ridgeback. Do you think we set the Ridgeback in a seat?
I mean,
so
I'm sure Chewy flies first class.
Anything for the Vergies, right?
Oh, yeah,
I mean, that is a first class event.
But that's sort of
anything for the Vergies.
If you're looking for a way in, the Vergies are it's again a boarded up theater restaurant of the mind, as we call it.
Awesome. Can't wait. Can't wait.
That reminds me. So at the beginning of every episode, Cristina and I ask each other what we have been baking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I surprised her today with my little tray of what I was baking. I showed you this yesterday, Chris.
I saw this.
So I can't even see myself. So can you see? Yes, these are my raisin butter tarts.
Yep.
Rum soaked raisins.
But I also
some booze and a bake.
Raisins.
Yep.
But I put a little something. Yeah, a booze and a bake. You got to do that. I also put a little something in for you guys.
A good Vegemite.
So this
Verjuice!
pay attention.
I'm making the verjuice.
It's the Maggie
Yes.
Bean one. It's the best one. It's the best one.
Yes.
Nice work.
Oh, Maggie Bean Verjuice goes
It
a long
is.
way.
So that is that's also in the. Well, I've never tried any other kind, but I thought that was
Oh, she owns the market. Like
Mm.
did a great job.
she
Tasted,
corners the market in it.
delicious.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So have you guys even been to Canada before?
No.
No.
We've got plans.
We have plans and now a lot of stops.
Yeah.
A lot of
we've-
stops.
Yeah, we've been told by
That's
a
for
lot
sure.
of people that if we don't stop in a lot of different places, we're in trouble.
Mhm.
So yeah, our Canadian trip's going to
Yeah.
have to be a lot of weeks.
And I'm just praying between now and then I don't become gluten intolerant because
yeah, that'd
it
be
will
horrible.
it will spoil things.
But if you do, we had our guest last
Yeah,
week
you
actually,
never know.
who is a pro of gluten-free baking, and her name's Katie Stymist, and she's Caked by Katie. She's got
Okay.
great gluten-free recipes. So if you are looking to follow
Fabulous.
somebody who
Yes.
knows the gluten-free baking and you wouldn't even be able to tell, she's your gal.
Okay, great.
I mean, that'd
Just
be
in case.
that'd be
100%
wonderful,
that.
but Steve would be upset. And that would be the problem. I don't want to upset Steve.
He would
I
be
don't want to
upset.
upset
Yes.
Steve.
We don't want to upset
You
Steve.
don't want to upset Steve. Ask Kristie. She's had the
How
tea wars.
about you just don't become celiac?
No,
Just don't do that.
fair enough. Let's not tell my
Don't
body
do
too
it.
loudly.
No.
How did the Washing Up podcast get its name? Is what I want to know.
So it was kind of
How did the Washing Up podcast get its name?
So it was kind of the joke was, again, because we were following
Go
another
ahead.
podcast. And so, well, what do you do after you've baked and then you've cooled all the food and stuff like that? You wash up.
So
Simple.
and I
So
hate
you're the
washing
cleanup
up.
crew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I really hate washing up.
Very simple.
I hate cleaning. Any
was
description
thinking
really.
it
I've got ADHD. Yeah. So I'm more than happy to do it as a podcast.
But then it
instead.
also-
I
I
was
say
thinking
I
it was
do
like,
the
you know, when
washing
you're
up.
doing the dishes after watching the show, and
But it also works for the idea of the washing
I thought
up
it was
too.
kind of like a water cooler thing.
Yeah. Well, it's secondary as well because it also works as a bit of a,
There
the
is
wash
quite a
up
lag here, hey?
Mhm.
Yeah, welcome
Yeah.
to the copper wire that
Yeah.
joins.
No, we're on fiber.
Yeah, but the one that runs at that the sharks bite at in the ocean.
She's blaming the ocean.
No, I'm blaming the government. You know me. I have a nice little.
I know you. Yeah.
Send your prime
The
minister.
Australian government or the Canadian?
Sure. Why not?
Sure, all the governments. All
Pick
the
all the
governments. Yeah.
Now I'm sounding like a libertarian. I've
There's
really
Don't do
so
that.
much,
Don't
so much craziness in the world right now. So I think we can blame
No politics.
all of them.
No.
No politics.
Let's move.
Yeah,
right
that's
along.
true. We can. Move to Canada. Why not?
Yeah.
It's options.
How many different baking shows do you actually cover?
It was
We're down to two.
We're down to two. We've narrowed it down to Australian and to Canadian because they're the ones that bring us joy. And
largely where our audience is at too. It's
Perfect.
that's where our audience is. We did British, and then British made us far too angry, because they've made so many changes and shifted so much from what they were, and it kind of got annoying.
yeah, it's more like we do this podcast as a way to just enjoy life, get our I don't know, just share something together, make ourselves laugh, and if other people laugh, great. But it's also, the TV shows, because we don't do entertainment full time. I wish I could, but Chris is an educator. I work with people who are dying, so to have an outlet, where it's just joyful, you don't have to think about it. That's what we wanted. So it's about what fuels our soul. And Canadian and Australian do still, which
And
is
they
wonderful.
are, and they genuinely, between the two of them, and we've said this a few times, and we mean it, is that Canadian and Australian are probably the two that stick closest to what the Bake Off ethos really is. British has moved a long way away from it. I like to joke that everyone who goes on to British has to have a cookbook within 6 weeks. It's the same cover photo, which is there's a plate in the middle, they're stacking something, and they're looking slightly off to the side of the camera. And it's like, they're laughing like, huh, like, oh, you've caught me in this moment. But they all have the same cover for their book.
You're
Every
such a
single one.
baking
I
purist.
am. But
Okay, now I'm gonna look
but
that up.
you get with Canadian and Australian, you get and not in a negative way, you get more of the enthusiastic amateur. Or who, like, not saying they're amateur in their level of skill or ability, but they're not there to sell a cookbook and have a career post that, because most of them understand that's not what this is. They're sharing baking. And the ones that we always talk to who have been on Bake Off who love it talk about the fact that it was the meeting other bakers, the sharing new ideas, just seeing this other world of baking was what was the appeal. And
We're here for nerds.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, we just want to see people who enjoy.
Perfect.
Yeah, we want to see people who enjoy it do something that they love, and that just generates more positivity. Yeah.
Absolutely. And baking is supposed to be fun.
Perfect.
It's supposed to bring that joy. It's supposed to bring people together. And I think that is the magic of the Great Canadian Baking Show. Probably sounds similar. I've not seen the Australian Bake Off, but I suspect after hearing you guys, same sort of thing, same values, same joy of and the sharing.
Well, not season one, but
The season 1 of Australian doesn't exist. But no, they changed networks.
Yeah.
They changed networks and changed
Gotcha.
production.
Yeah.
But one of the things,
it was
it
weird.
was very weird. But one of the things that the producer of Australian, when it came back and was so successful, said to us when we spoke to her was, love the bakers, love the bakes. And that was her ethos of the whole thing. She'd sit down when she'd do the baking matrix with a cup of tea and go, what would I like to see baked this season? And that's how they'd start their baking matrix. And so it was literally, what would I like to see people make and what would I like to eat with this cup of tea? And build from that. And the show's about the bakers and celebrating the bakers and celebrating what they're making. And that's it.
Yeah. No, it sounds good. And that's I think,
exactly what it should be.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beautiful part of how they bring, you know, those stories into the bakes. The bakers do that, right? And share that, how that bake came about, who was that influence for what they were baking that day. And just so many special moments and memorable moments that come as a result of that. And that's, again, part of the magic of the show. And I think the grand appeal for so many people, even non-bakers, that fall in love with what they're doing and the people that are on the show, from the bakers as well as the hosts and especially the judges as well.
Yeah, like one of the things I loved about the original British Bake Off was when they'd go into the history of the bake and you'd learn about, you know, what was it, that bloody bun thing that has a whole gate made to it in some Czechoslovakia. I think it's Czech. I can't remember. It's been a while and I've got no memory of it, but the bare basics. But you learn about, you know.
And I'm watching season 2 right now and I don't remember. So.
that kind of like that deep history. And then like coming to it from,
I think it was the Dumpf noodle bake. But
noodle, that's it.
Noodle.
Yeah. And then watching Canadian, you know, we learn more about like the kind of different provinces and what's like the little nuances of the history there. And, you know, one of my favorite moments was Jodie doing like, you know, a bake inspired by like the Cree and just little bits of things like that we can, it's a cultural exchange. And even in Australia, you learn that Neenish tarts are brown and white.
No, they're not. They're pink and brown. Anyway,
okay.
but you also
we won't murder each other.
But on the more serious part of that, though, with Australian, the same thing. They've just really started pushing native Australian bush ingredients a lot more in Australian Bake Off. So getting people used to flavours that were used more traditionally by original inhabitants here, rather than using all the European imported products, which give you some really cool flavours and some really interesting bakes. And that's something that I really enjoy too.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
And then just the multicultural stuff too, you know, like we're all immigrant countries unless you're an Indigenous person. So, you know, seeing people go, oh, this is from my mum in Sri Lanka and this is what we do. And you're like, bloody hell, that's pretty all right. Let's give that a crack.
But especially just quickly, especially in Australia, because we are in Asia, as much as people don't want to acknowledge that we are, that influence is more and more part of, like, originally in Australian Bake Off, there was a lot of European focus, but they shifted with the times. A lot more people talking about their background of Asian heritage, those ingredients, all of those sorts of things. And that's really interesting to see.
But
too.
not homogenous Asia.
No.
You know, very specific regions.
They're
That's what I
regions
wanna say.
rather than
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's
Right.
again with the bakers and how the CBC chooses the bakers every season as well. And Canada is a melting pot of all sorts of different cultures as well. It's really lovely to see that and learn, like you said, Kristie, about different ingredients and different bakes and the history behind them that we had no idea. And it really opens that baking door even more. I have an ongoing list of all the different bakes that I want to do and try, and ingredients that I'm trying to find on Amazon or at my Asian corner store or whatever. Constant, it's just an ongoing list of new and exciting things to bake. And I think, that's the other fabulous thing about what we do is, and the love for baking is that there's so many different things that you can bake. You could bake something new every single day for the rest of your life and still not cover everything off.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And not get
And
bored.
not, yes.
Just be tired, but not bored.
Definitely not bored. Definitely tired.
And that's the thing. There are so many
Definitely
of those
not.
ingredients out there. And, that's why I get so frustrated, because I'm going to go there, because I know you'll get there eventually, but I'm going to go there now. Matcha. Right. Yuzu. Matcha. Let's talk.
Let's do this. Ruby chocolate. Let's see what else is there. Saskatoon
Ruby chocolate.
berries.
Let's go down the-
Blueberries.
We'll come back to the berries in a minute. The berries are a different thing altogether. But let's go matcha, because we've got it. They had it as a poll yesterday.
We do that every Monday. We have what's called Love It or Leave It, and it is about a polarizing ingredient in baking. And we've had some great battles. Coconut, the matcha one, lots of great response on that one. What else did we have, Lisa? Licorice, yeah,
the
licorice flavor.
anise, the licoricey flavors.
In favor of aniseed. Love licorice.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I love
you can do that all you
licorice, but
want.
I don't love that.
You can do that all you
taste.
want, because I'm going to do that about matcha. So let's roll. So the matcha thing.
But we're
all doing the
about
matcha thing.
So,
But tell us how you really feel about matcha, Chris.
okay, my actual thing,
No, explain.
my genuine actual thing with it's twofold. First of all, I don't particularly like the texture and flavor of it in a bake. I think that it actually takes away from whatever you're baking. I think as a tea, obviously fantastic, great. Run, don't walk to that. My bigger issue with matcha is that I think too often it's used to shorthand this idea of doing something exotic, which is not actually what they're doing. They do a normal bake and they just throw some matcha powder in there. It goes green and they go, oh, look, I'm using, and this is where you're likely to get someone use the words Asian flavors, which I really dislike, because what part, what area, what region. And it's just overdone. And it's a massive shorthand shortcut that I don't particularly like, because I think it doesn't actually demonstrate a lot of thought. And it just became so overused before it even got to, I think, season 6 in Canadian.
We think Canada kind of, respected the balances of matcha.
Traditionally, yes.
Traditionally.
Whereas there were like series of Australian where it was just every week.
Yeah.
And it's like, enough. And it was the same with Yuzu was more, we also used to do Australian MasterChef. And Australian MasterChef, you used to see matcha and Yuzu all the time.
Yeah.
And it just got to a point where it became utterly ridiculous, and
matcha,
that's why it's on the
yuzu, dome molds.
Yeah, dome molds were the other one. But that's why it's on every week. We do a bingo card
during the show,
during the show,
not just for funsies.
Just for fun, you play bingo
every week.
What are we going to do? Play bingo.
Which certain production companies might have picked up and taken for their own use. Hi guys. But I'm going to say that I can. True. But it's great. Just give us some credit. But matcha is always the middle square, and there's a reason matcha is always the middle square, because it happens every season.
Yeah. Can't really disagree with you on
we don't like
anything
matcha.
that you just said there, Chris. So
it's not unfounded hatred. It's just I'm over it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
fair enough.
do something interesting.
Yeah. So if they So if they
Yeah.
paired that
And it
matcha,
doesn't really have much of a taste.
except for freshly mowed grass.
Yeah, that's close. That's really close.
Yeah, that's probably the closest thing it reminds me of. The smell of freshly grown grass. I've never actually eaten any of it. Although that smells all right, but
My dogs eat a lot of it.
That's why it's growling.
It's a bit of an upset tummy.
I wish
oh
they would
man,
shut up.
I'm over the matcha.
there you go.
Oh, man.
So
So do you two have personal baking experience?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, I learned how to make really good scones, and that's what I do.
To be fair, that's a skill.
Scones.
Experience.
and do you do clotted cream with those scones?
Here's the thing: in Australia, we don't have a lot of clotted cream, which then brings me on to my big bugbear, which is when people I don't know if you have this in Canada, but in Australia, right, you go for a nice drive on a long weekend, the sun's shining, it's spring or autumn because that's the perfect time, and everywhere's serving Devonshire teas. Well, if you know how cream goes on in a Devonshire tea, you know that it's the cream first, then the jam. No, not in Australia, because we don't serve clotted cream. We just serve whipped cream. And so they put the jam on first and the whipped cream on top, which is a Cornish tea. So that's my bugbear because we don't have a lot of clotted cream readily available for whatever reason. People just don't do that in Australia. It's jam first and then cream on top. Otherwise, it's melty. City limits.
Which makes sense. So
yeah,
cement. So
it's like embrace it. It's Cornwall. Like Devonshire's nice. They had a lovely duchess at some point that had tea and all that kind of stuff. But Cornwall's a beautiful place too, and we should just embrace that we do a Cornish style tea in Australia.
There you go. Well, you should start getting petitions going and make that happen.
Yeah, the next long weekend I'm planning a little expedition down to a place called Berry, which is probably an hour and a half south from here. It's one of those like kind of funky destination areas, like you got artists and antiquing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm just going to politely picket the next Devonshire tea place I see down there.
You're join. Do you have clotted cream?
Yes.
Are you serving your scones with clotted cream or whipped cream?
Yes, exactly.
So let me help you. Let me help you.
Yes.
Layer upon layer upon layer upon layer.
Chris is the baker in the family.
Okay.
He's also the one that I have to fight to get into the kitchen. I'm allowed to do two things: a roast chicken and fried rice, and the rest is his domain.
Yeah. And I get encouraged more and more, and I use the word encouraged as a nice thing and not forced almost at gunpoint by certain bakers from previous seasons of Bake Off to push myself to bake more things. I'm like, thinking about doing this, and I get messages from a couple of the Australian bakers who are like, you really should just do this.
You still haven't used your multiple bundt tins.
No, so I did actually from one grand final of Australian. I bought, because sometimes they sell at the Australian grand final some of the equipment. So they have a sale for the bakers and anyone who's there, and they can buy those things. And a couple of grand finals ago, I bought 3 bundt pans for $5 from the series. And
I know.
Part of the deal was that I was supposed to be making multiple bunts. And I do use the bundt tins, but I haven't ever baked 3 at once. So I'm not actually making full use of multi-bundt.
Well, maybe you could make a matcha yuzu bundt cake.
I could if I valued, my sanity. I could also not do that.
You can ship it to Canada. Cristina will
You can have it. I'll send it to you. There you go. You've done it now.
No, matcha 3 ways.
The 3
Matcha
stages
3
of matcha.
ways.
The 3 stages of matcha.
You've got 3 bundt pans, correct?
Yeah.
Yep, perfect.
The 3 ages of matcha.
And the third one's just filled with vomit.
You can make it like a
Tell the
volcano.
difference. Tell the difference.
Make it like a volcano, and there's like this matcha fountain spewing forth. Just boom.
That sounds horrific.
It sounds like a green cleanse gone very wrong.
I don't know how well that ships. I'm not sure how well that
Don't think that.
Wait, I was just
the nursing
I was
anecdotes.
just listening to the episode. It's just reminding me of that because I was just listening to the episode with the religious and the the tongues and the slits and the bottoms and I was just
Oh,
like, I
I was
laughing
dying.
so hard in my car. So yeah,
Oh,
dying laughing. So
I
now,
love-
I mean, I've got all these visuals. You guys bring so many visuals up. Your
Very
imagination
descriptive.
is just amazing.
We're parting the curtains to what it's like
Yes.
to live in a neurodiverse brain. You know, not you know, neurodiversity is a spectrum. People are all very different. But there's a lot of us who have, this is what goes on in our brains. You know, there's thought after thought after thought after thought after thought after thought, and we have no filter and a microphone.
Yeah, and you know, and unlike
and a recording device,
and unlike newer and some might even say more professional outfits, we don't edit. So, and that's something actually that we're very big on. We don't. It's because our thing is always you're having a conversation with us, and it's just a conversation, and we don't really need to edit because we're like, no, that takes away from the flow of sort of what it is that we do.
But we also like to make sure that people are comfortable in what they're talking about, and you know, not we're not hard hitting shock jocks.
No,
we're not trying to get clickbait.
We don't write questions. We don't when we talk to other bakers or talk to people. We don't write questions. We don't write anything down. We're having a chat. The conversation will go wherever it goes.
Whatever
it could be talking about baking. We could find ourselves down other avenues. Go wherever you're comfortable with. And we also like to, one of the things that we like to do with our podcast when we talk to bakers or anyone is we believe very firmly that everyone who goes on the show needs to have their own moment. And especially because, and not in a negative way, but TV has to edit things down for time. And especially in those first couple of episodes, you've got 10 bakers.
Exactly.
And so, or 10, depending on if you're doing a weird series where you're adding more, good for that. But you can't fit everyone on screen. So we like, when we talk to people, we give them a chance to just be them and have their moment and talk about what they want to talk about. And it seems to go okay.
Some people like it.
Yeah, it's great.
And I love especially when...
So we're just so new.
Oh, I was just going to say...
Go ahead, Cristina.
What I really love is when you have multiple bakers as well and have those conversations. Like you had the season 5 bakers together, Vincent and Steve and Steven,
the holiday
Marion and Amanda, and so much fun.
The holiday hootenannies is something we just sort of vaguely came up with. We want to just talk to a bunch of people we really like. And so we just like put out a general who wants to come on and just have a chat. And they are so much fun. They are chaotic. But they are so much fun because everyone is just great and goes and is so generous.
Yeah. We basically just open the mic and let them have at it. Like they made the magic. Like we just came up with a random one-liners.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Which are perfectly placed.
Yeah, and there's
you guys should really go
always,
on tour.
Always so perfect.
We were going to do a live show before COVID.
We had it booked and everything.
We actually had it booked for, so we had
really
massive audience of 25 in this little
would have worked. So we had
indie theatre down in Melbourne.
So for Melbourne, and we haven't really talked about this though, but Melbourne Comedy Festival in 2020, we had agreed a venue, we had it lined up. We were starting to talk to people about some people were going to come on possibly and come into the live show and be guests. And then the world shut down, and that didn't happen.
Bloody plague.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a real plague on this.
It's a real plague on this show. But no,
we
had a live show set up, ready to go, and then had to actually cancel it because of COVID. So, which would have been fun. Melbourne Comedy Festival would have been a blast.
I think you should.
That would have been so fun.
Yeah. Look, when
do it again. Yeah.
When the day eventually comes where we decide we're going to finish, we might finish up with a bang and a big live show.
Yeah. And a world and a national tour of Canada.
And we've got to do a national Canadian tour. That has to happen.
And we'll go kicking Saskatoon berries.
You definitely have to do that.
Yes, Saskatoon berries.
Oh, are we going there now?
Yeah, let's go berries. So, but what was the one that got introduced last year? Because there was a new one that came in last year.
I was just what was it?
Hapsberry?
Oh, it was
or.
It could have been. There was another one.
It was
no, it was
like
another
S.
Yeah. because it came in and I'm like, now you're just making them up completely. Like I believed it, forever.
Exactly. That's what I was just listening to you saying that.
I mean, we are the country.
Yeah.
of
What was it?
finger
Are you
line.
looking it up, Kristie?
We are the country of finger
Yeah,
lines.
I am.
But
ADHD brain is like, okay, need
But yeah,
to
there
work
was a,
out the
there was a
berries.
whole
Need to
new
know.
berry. There was a whole new berry last year that I've never heard of in a million years. And I spoke to
Yeah.
some of the other
It's
bakers
Yeah.
who went,
Canada.
never heard of it.
We
Oh,
don't make in
Absolutely
Canada.
never heard of it.
Like Stormberry or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was something.
Do you remember the
Cloudberry?
big-
But
Is it cloudberry? There's buffalo berries.
There's partridge berries. Well, there's a
Snowberries?
there's a lot
it
of.
was
I've heard of soapberry.
okay. You know what? I actually have it still open on my phone.
Nice.
Let's just
Because I've got no idea what that
just
one was.
see.
But no, the Saskatoon berry thing was, much like when people talk about Australia, and they talk,
I'm gonna
much like people talk about Australia and they talk about the idea of drop bears, which literally came from an advertising campaign for ginger beer in Australia. And it was, that was the thing. We figured that Saskatoon berries were like just an elaborate prank put together to, like, you've heard of. Oh, we found it.
Oh, excellent.
This is good.
salmon berries.
Salmon berries.
Salmon berries. I thought that was called
Yeah.
caviar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, that's a
Roe?
fruit.
Yeah, it's roe, isn't it? Yeah.
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 Put
Sushi.
it on top of salmon? Yeah, sushi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it's served on
Yum.
toast squares
Not
doesn't
in
make
a
it a berry. Is caviar a jam? Everybody in the comments.
Unless you put clotted cream underneath it.
Then it becomes Cornwall salmon berry. Cornish salmon berries.
Cornish salmon berry. I'm gonna put that at my next high
There we
tea.
go. It's better than fondant
I mean, hey,
fancies.
we need some new combinations.
You know, I actually think
Fondant. Oh my goodness! Don't get me started on fondant fancy.
Just for 1 minute, I'll let you pick that point up in a minute. But can we put a moratorium on fondant fancies being in Bake Off Grand Finals across the world? Like never again, no more.
they can be in Cake Week.
I-
I
Yeah,
think
I
Not
wish
in a
we
grand
had that
final.
power.
No fondant fancy in a grand final.
yeah. What is this?
It's not up to us.
2006.
No,
But
I know.
maybe, maybe if the producers
It
hear
isn't.
this.
Look,
I'll have
after
a word.
after I go on my my Devonshire tea strikes and picketing, I will then start on the moratorium on
Yes.
fondant fancies.
Fondant fancies being in the grand final,
Just
Perfect.
showing up to random
Yeah.
bake-offs and
Okay.
baking shows around the world.
and also, and also, just because I want to chime in with another thing, we should ban the illusion cake. I'm over it. Please stop making cakes that look like other
Oh, you
cakes.
don't like
Well,
it?
my problem with illusion cakes.
He's easily fooled, and he
Yeah.
goes around biting things.
I bite
going,
everything.
"Is this-"
These aren't real. These aren't real. I replace them.
You
You
bite.
know how much it sucked when I bit on an anvil because I thought it was cake. But
Our poor cats.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But no, seriously, with illusion cake, my problem with an illusion cake is that the illusion cake either has to look really, really, really like the thing, or the whole bake looks a bit shoddy.
Mm.
And I don't like,
Yeah.
especially when bakers on Bake Off have to do it to time
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
time pressure. I don't
Yeah.
think that puts bakers in a good light, and that's
I-
where my whole thing is: give them
Mhm.
something that's achievable.
Mhm.
Don't make them have to rush.
Or
and
an
do
Yeah.
it.
overnighter.
Yeah, well,
They
we've talked about an
sleep
overnight
in the
challenge.
pavilion.
We've put forward the idea of a 12-hour baking challenge. Like, do a long one.
Yeah,
Give them-
I think, or a multi-day one, and then you
Yeah.
could actually get into things like
Well, they do that in
croissants
British.
and
Though. They do the multi-day ones in British.
Yeah, but they do multi-day ones in British.
Yeah.
But then you also
Yeah.
get contestants that can't make choux pastry. So it's a balancing act.
Shush, be positive.
No, there was a whole series. Excuse me, there was a whole series
I'm-
where they did choux pastry and no one could make it.
I'm here for lightness and sweetness and light.
That's why we
okay?
don't watch
Sweetness
That's why
and
we don't
light.
watch British Bake Off.
I know.
but they
Like-
were so good at so many other things.
Sweetness and
They
light,
weren't
like
good
in a
at
creme
pastry,
caramel.
and that happened to be the thing. Oh, don't even. My favorite.
Matcha bakes.
One of my
So good.
favorite, and you know this, Lisa. One of my favorite moments in Canadian history is Bruno walking back into the pavilion after the creme caramel challenge, and just seeing the look on his face, going, "Guys, seriously." And then the next season, Vincent just busting one out for the topper on his grand final cake, and not knowing the history, and everyone going, "Oh my god, he's doing creme caramel," and Vincent's like, "What?
Mm.
What?"
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, we talked about that actually.
It's one of my favorite moments, the creme caramel, because also Bruno was in leather jacket mode. It was great because he was being cool dude. And he walks in,
Yeah.
I like that. He wakes up in the morning, pops
He
the
just
collar,
sees all
he's
these
like,
pops his
"I'm
collar, and off he goes.
Yeah.
It's Bruno. Like, Bruno's always
jumps
cool
on his
dude.
motorbike."
Like Bruno's always cool dude. But you know, how many people do you know who would openly speak French gibberish because I asked him to? Like, I asked him to speak
Only
French
because
gibberish.
you
mean,
probably
that is-
asked him. He might not do that for anybody else.
No, I asked for French gibberish. I got it. It was amazing.
Yeah, you just threatened him with matcha.
Oh my gosh, I wish I didn't have dogs right
No,
now.
it's
No,
fun.
it's
That's-
great.
they
It's
add.
good.
I love them so
Good.
much.
They
Nice.
add.
All these things about like podcasts needing to be pure, you know, like people go to podcast studios and don't have the surround bar. I love when you get little glimpses into people's life. It's like, you know, during COVID and Zoom, we've all got to know each other's pets and, you know,
Kids.
significant
Yeah.
others. Like everyone at work loves Chris because they're like, he brought you hot chocolate. He brings you hot chocolate all the time. It's just so
Aw.
lovely. We've got to know my friend's cat. We're very invested with this big, fat, fluffy, angry cat who insists on sitting right in front of the camera during every meeting. So yeah, bring on the dogs, I say.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah, I mean, there
Real
were
life.
a few good
little
things
slice
that came.
of real life. My kids are all grown. I have 4 dogs.
Yeah, and there were so many good things
Good
that
things
came
that
out
came
of
from
from
COVID.
Yeah.
We're in healthcare, and you can't say that good things.
No, I'm
But
saying,
it's true.
okay, there was aside from all the craziness and the horrific stuff that happened, there were some good things that came out of it. And look, and one of them is like all the people who actually started baking.
And that was, and one of it was,
That's
it
true.
became really good for us because we use Zoom a lot with our interviews, and I used to have to give 4.5-hour explainers to everyone on how to click on a
Instructions,
Zoom link, and I don't have to do that.
No.
Every time I go, we're going to do Zoom. Yeah, cool, no problem. Send me a link.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
2 seconds.
For me
Yeah.
personally, I'm just really happy
Yeah.
with everyone knowing how to properly wash their hands now. Like it's just, you can see the health professionals in the just it's like, you know, you're singing happy birthday,
Yep.
aren't you?
100%.
Into the nails, aren't we? Yep.
Yeah.
But do you think people have just become a little bit more
Very, very,
lax?
very happy.
You know, it's been, you know, we're kind of out of it.
Definitely.
And I think people are going back to sort of what their normal life was. And like, I still see, you know, we'll be out and about and people will just sneeze or cough and they're not like doing it into their elbow or they're just
Come on,
like
vampire it.
Yeah.
Just letting it.
I think
letting
I
it
think
go. Like,
the one thing I
what's
will
wrong
say that
with
has
you?
well, the one thing I will say that's been a positive change there is I think, and I've seen it more in Australian workplaces, is that people are more likely to stay home if they are sick,
Mhm.
and more likely to have employers
Mhm.
go, "Yep, stay home, don't come in."
Yeah.
But the other thing is too, I think the flex, and again, it's weird take on a baking show, but the flexibility of workplaces. And this idea that people have suddenly started to learn that you don't need to be standing over the top of someone. And if they're working from home and they're more comfortable and they're taking breaks whenever they want, but they're getting everything done, you actually get more production and you get more work done and you get better quality of work because people aren't stressed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
yeah.
a hybrid model is a good thing though, like having, you know, three days a week at home, a couple of days in the office, just because I think there's something about that corporate culture that you do miss those parts of it and that camaraderie.
Humans.
You need to see people.
That the human connection.
Yeah. But the idea of a couple of days in a workplace, a couple of days at home, I think is a far more sustainable model.
And I feel like it has like baking has just become such a thing in people's lives now because of COVID. That whole like, I think people got into a bit of a homesteader mentality, like, oh, the world is falling around, but I can still bake bread.
Yeah.
We'll remember that Robin Hood ran out of bags with like their logo on it because they couldn't print them fast enough.
Yeah, well, and everybody was out.
Yeah. We did.
Yeah.
This is what I'm here for.
Finding
I'm bringing
yeast.
you up
I
to date
remember
with
trying to
Canadian
find
baking.
yeast was insane.
I'm bringing Lisa up to date with Canadian
Thank
baking
you.
trends. That's what I do.
I just think they need to go back to the
Thank goodness the Australian is here.
Yeah, we'll tell you what's happening in your country. There are moose and caribous.
Yes,
And
there are.
people who are
There are
Canadian.
deer in my yard. There are bears in my yard.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have
We
Star
don't
Wars.
like letting the dogs
I
run
was about to say,
around
no,
our
that's your
bed.
dog growling.
You have one?
Yeah, that's just your dog.
Oh, wait.
Dogs.
It's the bear that Steve ran into has come to get his revenge.
I hear you know, Steve.
It's just because Steve wouldn't take him for a bike ride.
Where
That's
may
it.
I find him now? I don't know.
You guys have a
Steve gave you chocolate.
you guys have a almost like a little bit of a love affair with Steve and Vincent. I think those two guys
We get
certainly
favorites
were.
who tickle our fancy, and then we just go on this tangent of creating this
We've-
whole world for them.
We've been
Yeah.
incredibly fortunate to get to speak to pretty much everybody. And those bakers that we haven't got to
Mhm.
talk to yet, we're coming. There's a lot of, especially trying to coordinate with Canada. Like, it's easier in Australia to coordinate the interviews
Yeah.
than it is Canada. The funniest one, I will say, we
I
ever
bet.
coordinated was Kyla. So the Kyla, this is pulling back the curtain, but that's fine. There's no problem with it. When we spoke to Kyla, first of all, it was Kristie's birthday. And so Kyla had baked little cupcakes with candles in it for
You're so
Kristie's
sweet.
birthday, which
So
was absolutely
sweet.
lovely.
Couldn't
But-
eat them, but it was the thought that counts.
But our contact in publicity at CBC was based out of Toronto. And then Kyla was back over in the UK. So when we did that interview with Kyla, it was about 11 o'clock at night. And we had 3 different time zones going. We had Sydney, we had Toronto, and we had London. And that's the sort of coordination it takes to do interviews. We're beaming between the 3 to try to get the interview done, because that's the timings. But with the Canadian bakers,
Mhm.
we've been so fortunate that they've all embraced us. We hear from them going, really enjoy what you're doing. It's like, glad you get it. There's more coming. But
Look, when we started the podcast, it really was an exercise in self-gratification. Like, we thought, we'll do it, we'll enjoy it. And if anyone listens, great. You know, maybe
Like your
one
neighbor
will.
doing that vibrating thing.
Yeah.
as
Yes.
Tom Lehrer once said, self-indulgence is better than no indulgence at all.
Exactly.
Um,
And then when we got our first kind of like
Exactly.
fan, Brendan, we still love you, on Twitter, it kind of did my head in. And then, when we started doing Canadian, again, we did it for our own, you know, like we thought, oh, this show is great. Let's do it. Like, it was just this, like, we have to podcast this. And then we've got, you know, so many new friends across the pond. Or is it a ditch? What is
it's a long chasm.
It's a long chasm. Across the long chasm.
In the pavilion. They're all in the pavilion.
And
In the
pavilion.
pavilion. And remember, you know, again, it's very important for people to understand. There's one tent. It's Britain.
Britain has the tent.
Britain has the tent. Australia has the shed. New Zealand has the cabana, although we don't pay attention to them.
No.
And obviously the pavilion.
That's so New Zealand. The pavilion.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
everything has to
The
have
Canadian Pavilion.
Yes.
I think
We
that's what they
keep trying to
called
get-
them.
I have a really hard time. I know I'm supposed to call it the pavilion, and I'm like, they're gonna rag on me if I ever
keep
get
trying to
in
get
here
it-
and
Call it
I
a
call
tent.
it a
we
tent.
keep trying to get it called the pavilion. I've heard from people that there are
gets
people
edited
inside who
out.
have mentioned the word pavilion.
And
So-
how
Yes.
well does that go over? Do you know?
They're fine with it.
Okay.
From what I understand, they're fine with us.
They just won't put it on.
They won't put it on TV.
Such a great
Look,
team.
yeah,
they won't put it on TV. that's
Lamingtons
okay.
was the first technical a couple of seasons ago.
Mhm.
Oh yes, I made lamingtons.
They're delicious.
That was
Yeah,
great.
they really are.
They're so good.
Well, my friend from Australia, my friend Jessica, who just got married, who I made that wedding cake for, she actually grew up in Australia, and so she was very, very, very excited to have lamingtons.
Oh,
And then
So
when
I hope I did
and
them
then when
justice.
when Niv was on, you know, hearing about, and we still haven't had the chance to do the full sit down chat with Niv yet, which is coming, but she
Yeah.
was very keen to talk
Yeah.
about the experience she got to have in Australia, because she was here when she found out, you know, when you hear New Zealand.
Yes,
found
you
out.
heard. And she was getting into professional kitchens to
Yeah,
practice.
there was a
and
brand new
stuff
one
like
in
that, you were
Adelaide, and she
saying.
reached out to and this is the other thing I think that we've sort of been really glad to watch, is that the Australian bakers and the Canadian bakers have started to sort of intermingle and talk. So
Mhm.
when she got out here, she messaged a bunch of the Australian bakers to find out where there was a kitchen she could use,
Yeah.
and so they all sort of put her in touch with people, and were really cool.
It's
Very
so
nice.
awesome. It really is this big community that's like
Oh.
becoming worldwide. It's kind of crazy that we're talking to you in Australia right now.
Yeah, it's fantastic fun, and I like seeing that it's a large positive community, which I absolutely adore.
Everybody's so incredibly supportive.
Yeah.
They're so gracious with their time, their energy, their, feedback, suggestions. It's just such a sharing, open, fun community, and everybody's fabulous too.
Mhm.
Look,
It
when
really
you
is nice.
when you have a hobby or something that brings you joy and you find others who it brings joy to and you can nerd out about it together, it's magical. And
Yeah.
that's how, life
Yeah.
should be. It's just finding those little pockets of people with similar
Yeah.
interest to you. Like my I say latest, and it's been 3 years. It's probably why we haven't done as much podcasting.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten into burlesque. So I'm very much into performing, rhinestoning,
Right.
all that.
That's right.
Yeah. But now I've got a whole new kind of family as well. But a lot of them also like baking. So it's like, layers on layers. Yeah.
Yeah, it interweaves.
Oh, you got the
That is
crossover.
brilliant, though, especially when you
That's
can when you
awesome.
can marry those two passions and nerd out about both of them with the same people.
Exactly.
I mean, that is awesome. That's bonus.
That's huge.
Like today, I'm going to
Yeah.
the Snatch
When I
Game,
went,
with another burly girl, and Chris is taking a cheesecake that he's made, a brownie cheesecake that he's made, to her husband,
cheesecake.
who loves himself some cake. So they'll be caking out while we're nerding out at Drag Race. Yeah.
Perfect.
So much fun.
Sounds like so much fun. Yeah, when I went to Toronto, we were going to Cuba for another wedding in April. And so we had to fly out of Toronto. So I said, okay, Chris, well, we're going to be meeting my Chris, not all of you Chris's. We're going to be meeting up with some bakers from the show. And so I messaged Vincent and Steve, and they got a bunch of us together. So Candace and Steve and Vincent and who else was there? Mengling was there.
Yep.
And so Mengling. So we all went out for Peking duck. Like Vincent's just, the consummate organizer. He gets everything.
Yes.
And just being able to blah, 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 blah. Well, Phil was also there, Vincent's husband, and my Chris was also there. And so we're in the living room, and we'd all brought desserts, and we were all sitting there eating each other's desserts and, inspecting them and discussing them and blah, blah, blah. And finally, it was like, I think it was midnight or 1:45 in the morning or something like that. And Phil was sitting there like this. And I was like, Chris and Phil are starting to fall asleep. And does anybody realize what time it is? And nobody had any idea what time it was because we had nerded out so much on the baking. And it was the best. It was such a great
I'm
evening.
imagining them like when we were kids and we'd go out to dinner with our parents and like the friends of the family. And by a certain time of the night, the kids are all falling asleep under the restaurant table. And the parents are still yammering on.
Totally.
It was just the husbands.
Yeah. I think I'm done now,
Really paying attention.
Oh, is that
but they did have fun and they got along, which was nice. So, yeah. Yeah, so I totally get the whole thing about being able to nerd out with friends. And Cristina and I, we don't live in the same town, but when we get together, we get to bake together, and that's always so much fun. We're going to be able to bake with another Bake Off alumnus very soon.
Somebody that's,
so that's going to be
on
very
your
nice.
show as well. So
ooh, forward sizzle, love it.
Yes,
we're super excited.
Very
we're
excited.
Go back through our archives to work out who.
It'll be good. Oh, I also want to mention, Kristie, today when I was listening to one of the episodes, and Katie Lang showed up, and I just thought Katie Lang had the best voice ever, and I was like so impressed by your Canadian accent.
That totally wasn't me. It was totally Katie Lang. She just calls in.
Sorry, it was
the
Katie.
the queen of accenting. We've been through her reputation.
And the Queen.
Yes, and the Queen. And the Queen.
Thank you so much. That means
and the
a
Queen.
Lot. It really...
Look, no one was more affected by the death of the Queen than us because, like, it's a running character on the pod. And, she still appears in, like, seance form. But
It takes a lot to channel her now.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, she
It's
appeared
a
at the
bit-
last Virgie.
I
She
bet.
appeared in advertising flashback.
I don't know. King Charles might pop away.
Oh, I hope not. I want more Lizzie. Like she has appeared previously on I think it was Jet Ski or Speedboat. We had to turn up. I can't remember which one. It was
Bit of
one of
column
the
A,
two.
bit of column B.
Yeah, she turned up.
Submarine
She
as
turned
well.
up to the Tuvalu Virgie Awards
In a submarine.
Yeah, it was one of those.
I think
things.
it was a submarine. Yeah.
So
In a submarine.
yeah, look, she
Okay, that will be your starter
she
episode
follows
then,
us wherever
Cristina.
we go.
That's the one.
Like even in death, she follows us around.
Oh, look,
It's impressive. I mean, you guys have drawn quite a following.
We really do.
I try and do a Canadian accent now, but now I've gone all kind of like my brain's just gone, oh, I can't do that now. Like,
Yeah, you'll.
go extra ochre instead.
I love accents also. I get it. I 100% get it because I was like, as I was driving home, I have a theater background, and so I love accents, and I'm always slipping into accents. I used to work in like downtown Victoria in the Inner Harbor at a hot dog stand, and it's like tourist central, right? So all these tourists would come, and I would automatically talk in their accent back to them.
That's great.
And half the time I was like, oh shoot, they're gonna think I'm making fun of them, but other times they would be like, oh, what part of England are you from, or whatever.
Are you from? Are you from Jayberg too? That's great.
But it's like when I'm doing if I'm doing a pre-watch of like the first episode before a series starts, I get really excited if I see there's a contestant from Newfoundland because I know that Kristie's going to start busting out Newfie, and that's a joy. I just want them to stay longer because I'm like, this is great.
But for me, like here, I'm going to go nerding out about there are sayings there too that are so similar to Australian stuff, and I'm like, ooh, like who colonized where and how did these like, I mean, the British everywhere.
The British is the answer.
Yeah. Who colonized where? I don't know. These goddamn British.
To give you an idea, one of the most popular podcasts in Australia is a history podcast called Stuff the British Stole. And it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Literally goes through everything the British have stolen. It's fantastic.
Stuff the British stole.
Yeah.
The Portuguese are up there too.
Really are.
Yeah.
Low-key. They're low-key very good at it.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, you could be the most prolific serial killer. I don't know who that is, but if you're like the third or fourth one, like the Portuguese, you're kind of like, good, keep looking over there. I can keep doing my thing while they're looking for...
I think the big difference is that the Portuguese didn't build a very large museum based on all the stuff they stole.
No.
And that's the difference.
And lose stuff.
Yeah, and lose things. Yeah, which they do all the time.
Oh, yes.
But
yes. Well, the Portuguese may have stolen... Never mind.
Stolen a whole lot of stuff from Canada? Is that...
Yeah. I don't know. I lost the train.
I lost the train.
It's out of
trying to follow everybody. It's like, wait, I don't know where we are anymore. But hopefully we'll have Newfie Baker on next season because I can't wait to hear Kristie's Newfie impersonation.
Yes.
So like brush up. All right, cool. Let's get my
No, it's better when you wing it.
Okay.
So on the way home, I was thinking when I heard the K.D. Lang impression. No, when I heard K.D. Lang and Mike Myers. Mike Myers, not quite as good as K.D. Lang.
That's fine.
That's just a general statement.
The male voice that was missing.
Chad didn't stick
But
around
I was
very
like,
long.
am I going to go? Yeah, that's true. No, Chad really was. And Pamela was great.
Pamela was really
Pamela
good.
Was so different from Katie.
Yeah.
That was like, and I had to rewind because I was like, wait, who is this? But I could have just kept listening and I would have figured out who it was.
And then Avril.
But then I was like, am I going to go into my Australian? I didn't get there yet.
You get to Avril.
I said, am I going to go into my Australian accent when I did? Was there Avril?
Yeah.
Oh, they were talking about
it. Yeah, Avril was there.
Avril came too. Yep, she was there.
Okay, so I didn't get there yet. I haven't gotten there yet.
It was a very northern.
And then I tried to do my Australian accent in the car, and it went away. Oh, what's that?
It was a very Northern Lights. Tears are not enough. Setup.
I missed you. Wait,
and Celine, I think, even made an impression.
Celine, I heard.
Yeah, she was there too.
We can't talk about Celine right now because I just watched that, and that was so hard to watch.
I hope she comes back.
Very hard.
Well, she literally just announced the Montreal Canadiens pick at the NHL draft. So
can always hope. I mean, she is just such a national treasure.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And a
Really is.
Kinda like-
Eurovision treasure.
And a Eurovision treasure.
Fingers
And,
Yeah.
That's right.
and next year it's in Switzerland again. So
Yeah, you guys are big Eurovision followers too.
We are. We are. And the winner this year, Nemo.
Eurovision Song Contest.
Yes. The winner this year from Switzerland, Nemo, dressed as Celine Dion to perform their song at
it was one of the lead-up events.
one of the lead-up events. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Fingers crossed.
Oh
Do
my
it.
gosh.
Just it'd be great. Putting it out there. Sorry.
I wish we had any pull whatsoever.
I know.
Yeah, right?
We're just sitting here surrounded by dogs, not able to do anything to help you.
Not with that attitude.
I'm sorry, you feel like the pressure of like everything we're putting out, like we've come to see Santa Claus.
It feels like that for us. I mean,
I'm like, all right, I'm writing it down. I'll do everything I can for you,
People.
just to thank you for being on our
we're
podcast.
so grateful for you.
Oh, our pleasure. Thanks for having
So
me.
Yes, we are.
Would you say, do you have like a favorite moment out of all the Great Canadian Baking Show seasons? Was there a moment that stuck out in your mind that went, this is what it's all about?
I mean, there's a number of them. I mean, look, as I've mentioned before, from a funny perspective, it's creme caramel, and it will forever.
Okay.
But every series of Bake Off has one of those where it's a challenge where, like I mentioned before, the British had the shoe that didn't work. We had jam drops, which are a ridiculously simple biscuit, and nobody got it right. Absolutely no one can get it right. And they are all to this day still absolutely confused as to why they didn't get it right, because it's not complicated. The creme caramel thing.
Why do you think that was such a difficult?
Well, they don't even know. That's the thing. It's not. It's a simple sort of cookie biscuit here with literally just jam on top of it, and that's it. And they couldn't get it to set properly, and they couldn't get the jam to stay properly. And since then, when you talk to them, they all say the same thing, which is like, it's worked every other time. And we still do it to this day, and it works every other time, but no one could do it on that day. My answer for that, though, is largely bread weeks, just in general. I think Canadian bread weeks tend to be possibly the strongest bread weeks we see across the board. And everyone talks about the idea of bread week being the big sort of challenge in Bake Off. But I genuinely think that the way that the Canadian baking show does bread week is usually really high quality. So probably just in general, I'm going to say bread weeks.
I'm going to quote a famous Australian show.
Get the pun.
I'm going to quote a famous Australian movie called The Castle, and just go, it's the vibe of it, Your Honour. The vibe of the Great Canadian Baking Show. Look, I'm even honouring the actual name.
Calling it what they want to call it.
Is these people who've just got so much care and talent and skill, like I think Andre and Pierre, from that season, that first episode, you had these two like very passionate people in a room of passionate people, and it could have gone either way. Like Pierre left, and it's like they could have gone further if it wasn't for that bloody melty.
The collar.
The collar. It was the collar.
The collar
are evil.
The mousse cake with the collar that collapsed.
Don't try to collar a cake. And just the magic that comes out of it, people's little stories that come into it, and and the joy between people, and you can see the genuine friendships, and like all the stereotypes that you'd say about Bake Off, but heightened, I think is why I love Canadians so much. Yeah.
Now, I know the Canadian bakers they're like a big family, and it transcends through the seasons as well. So it's not even like you've got your baking family from season 5, for example. And those bakers are extremely close. But they have, they connect up with the bakers from multiple seasons. Is the same thing happening in Australia as well with the Australian Bake Off that you're aware of? Yeah.
Yeah. So they're all, there's a really healthy community. And as I mentioned before as well, the Australian bakers and the Canadian bakers have all started crossing over as well. And getting more and more crossover between the two series, and people sort of reaching out to other people for that sort of help. But it is very much a sort of community with the Australian bakers. It's very much the same as with the Canadian bakers.
And I think the thing that is similar between Australia and Canada is that geographical distance. So, if you're if you're baking in a smaller country, it's going to be easier for you to connect with, like, stay with the people within your, like, season. Whereas in Australia, you've got people from Perth, which is like a 10-hour flight from Sydney, and you guys have a similar, like, massive distance to cover too. So you're going to be reaching out to people that are a bit more local to you, so that can facilitate it. But overall, the bakers just want to nerd out with nerds.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and they're looking for that expanded, and like we've heard.
Keep calling us nerds. That's great.
I'm good with that.
But we like
Baking
I
nerd.
am actually.
talk to bakers.
I'll wear that with pride.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I've talked to a lot of bakers, like when they talk about, for example, with Australian, I've heard of them. They get on the bus in the morning to go off to shoot. Someone goes, "My fondant recipe's not quite working, or this is not quite working," and immediately everyone on the bus is like, "I've got one here. Just think about this. Have you thought about this? What's not working?" And they're talking about it, and that sort of thing continues after the fact, and you then see across seasons you get that sort of crossover as well, which is just fantastic to see.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
It's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
So if there was ever an international...
Well, I'm going to have to say, since we're already...
there's a lag there. I was just going to ask if there was ever an international bake-off of champions or a Canadian baking championship. Yes?
We've done this. There is an episode in the archives. It's called the Commonwealth Games. I have proposed this now for 5 years.
Yeah.
That there should be a complete Canadian team versus Australian team versus British team versus, if we need to, the Kiwis, but who knows?
Maybe throw the South Africans in. We'll see.
And there's even a whole structure of 3 days worth of challenges and how you do it as a team structure.
Oh, okay. I think that's a brilliant idea. I think I'd love to see that. That would be amazing. The other thing I would love to see is sort of a tournament of champions.
Yeah.
So pick the best of, and it could be just even, I know they did that with the holiday special,
Aside
not
from
that long
holiday.
ago, but aside from holiday, but like a full season of a tournament of champions with like the top, I guess maybe when we hit 10 seasons of Great Canadian Baking Show, maybe that's when they'll maybe do that, because there'll be the 10 winners.
That would make sense.
Against each other. But let's say there was an international bake-off.
Yeah.
Who would be like your top 5 picks of who you would love to see in the end-all be-all of baking champion of the world? And who do you think would take it all? Who would your money be on?
I have that answer before I go to everything. So I know who the winner is automatically.
Okay.
It's Andre. It's Andre. I love all the winners across all the series.
Vincent would give him a hard
Vincent
run.
would push him.
Yeah.
So would Rafikat.
Yeah, Rafikat would.
They're those three.
But we're looking international. Look, I love Nadia. I could watch her all day.
Yeah.
Like,
you have.
Yeah. Nadia.
Yeah.
From Australian.
Amazing.
Olivia.
Olivia
I'd
from
pull
season
her out of
3
retirement.
Australian.
But she's got to come with her wing woman fee.
Yeah, and Claudia from season 4 Australian would be the other one there of season.
That's your top 5.
Season 4 or 5. Yeah. They're our 5, I think. But Andre's the winner. But I think that those ones there would really push. So to give you an idea, Olivia in season 3 in Australian, which was our first season really of covering Australian, had a souffle that failed. She stopped, pulled it apart, made another one with shorter time, and won the challenge.
Wow.
So had the patience to go, this isn't going to work. I know I've got to rush it, but I'm stopping. I'm moving it. We're going again.
Yeah.
But that's calm and
rather than falling apart. Yeah.
And I think that's the key. We had Loic on. He was our first guest. And, I think that's one of the key nuggets that he left us with is it's really everybody who makes it onto the show are amazing bakers. So it's not really about that skill and that talent anymore. Like you're there on that stage or in the pavilion because you're a great, great baker. But the ones that do end up crossing that and becoming the champions of the season or making it further on in the show are those people that can pivot and be totally calm and cool and collected and just, focused and organized. So it's so much more than just the skill of baking when you're in your own kitchen and you've got endless amount of time to be able to put something together, but it's really about doing it in a timeline and doing it with all of the other pressures and things coming at you. So it's kind of survivor
It's
meets.
it's the double ability of
Survivor Bake Off.
yes. It's the
Whack 'em
double
on an island.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
So-
it's the double ability of being able to pivot. If
Survivor Bake Off Bering Sea.
Regina.
There we go. It's the double ability of being able to pivot if things are going wrong, and that's a skill. But also a lot of the time, it's if you can't, if you can be really good at that, but also if you are really well organized, and that's a Vincent strength. Like Vincent, when we've talked to Vincent a number of times, the level of organization in his bakes is absolute military precision on the dot, and he has the ability to carry that out. And in a time pressure situation with cameras on him, with all of those things going on, that takes a calmness of knowing that you know exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And he's just meticulous with his detail. And then there's Andre, who just is just Andre.
Waves a fan.
He's just Andre.
Waves a wand.
The holiday special.
He does not realize how
No, he
busy
His
doesn't.
finale, where he actually made the box with the candy ribbon and then panettone, individual little panettoning in each of them.
To
And
Andre,
it's like,
talking to Andre is an experience. That man has lived a million lives. All of them are amazing. We've talked to him a little bit on the pod with the group podcast we did for the holiday special. We do have to get him on because he does have to talk about solo sailing to Australia and all the things that he's done. It's a million lifetimes, and it's incredible, all of them. And then he just casually bakes like that and goes, "Oh, I didn't know if it was that good."
of course he does.
Because
What
Like,
can't he do?
I thought I would learn how to pull.
I just thought
candy,
I learned to do candy ribbons and
pull
something with
sugar,
a
and then I
challenge.
made a bow.
Like, how did
Doesn't everybody do this? It's Thursday.
exactly? It's Thursday, time to make candy ribbons.
Look, I've got a few errands to run, but I reckon by about,
Couple
midday.
moments.
I've got 10 minutes. Sure. Let me whip something up. Yeah, here you go. Here's my 3-tier.
Well, they're perfect and they're flawless. And
Here's my never fall souffle.
And Bruno's like, this is the sort of thing I'd expect to find in the window of any fancy patisserie worldwide. And I was like, really? It's like, yes.
Yeah. Said for every single challenge
He
that he
doesn't
did.
get it. He does not get it.
Right?
I remember. I remember talking about Andre's season with a couple of bakers that were on it, and there was one where Devin was telling us that because they couldn't go near each other's benches or do anything there, I think it was one of the cookie challenges they did, and he was just leaning against the fridge, eating a cookie, watching Andre bake because he was just having so much fun. He's just like, Andre's baking, he's just leaning against it going, yeah, cool. And you can just see it. He's leaning and watching Andre.
It was his own private only pans.
Well played. Well played.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kristie.
The talent of the podcast. ladies and gentlemen.
You need to take this show on the road.
All right. It'll be a
No
podcast burlesque
All right,
show.
let's
Watch out
play.
for it.
Yep.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness, that would just be, over the top. Perfection. All right, let's play this or that.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Do you guys know our game of this or that? We're going to throw a couple
Very
different things
cool.
at you. And
Oh.
I mean, first one's easy.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So
You don't need rules.
I think we
Let's
know
figure
the
it out.
answer to this one, but tent or pavilion?
Pavilion.
Tick.
That was so instantaneous. All right. Never
I
mind.
think we know the answer to this
Great
one.
Canadian Baking Show or Great British Bake Off?
Canadian.
Yes.
Canadian.
Good. Paul Hollywood
Easy peasy.
or Bruno?
Bruno, every day of the week.
Yeah, he's awesome, huh?
The man is amazing. And
Yeah.
the work
The
that he
whole-
does and the work that he does around male mental health as well. Superb.
Mhm. Amazing. His story is
Yeah.
so heart-wrenching and inspiring.
It's one of my
Where-
favorite podcasts we've ever done is our chat with Bruno. We
Mm.
could have talked to that man for forever if he'd let us.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, just all the time in the world for him, his talent. Yeah, what he's been through and what he's doing now is just phenomenal.
Yeah, he's quite a person. That's awesome. Mary Berry or Prue Leith?
Mary. I love Prue. It's no disrespect to her, but it's like, we've got Rachel Khoo on Australia now, or Maggie Beer, and Maggie Beer is just everyone's mum in Australia. Like, you can't. And the same with Mary Berry. She's just a comfort.
Yeah, makes sense.
Rachel Khoo was on Zumba, wasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. Does she still taste things like this?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you do that again?
That was really accurate.
I don't even have the bright red lipstick on, but you know.
There are a few shows that do that though. There are a few judges that kind of do that where it's so dramatic. It's like
Doesn't need to be.
I don't know how Kyla always manages to look like an actual human being when she's tasting.
Because I think they're authentically themselves. I mean, I think that's the magic of the judging on Great Canadian Baking Show actually is how lovely they are. And their personalities shine through. I had an opportunity to meet Kyla. I actually stalked her in London when I was there.
Fair.
She's like,
we get it.
I knew where she worked.
Yep.
So so anyway,
Someone
it was
has
lovely.
to train all those people. But
she was so amazing. Just such a beautiful spirit, beautiful person. She spent 45 minutes chatting with me that stalked her from Canada.
Is that what her new show's about? It's called Baby Caribou, and it's this woman who comes into her work. Baby reindeer.
Oh, it's better than Baby Beaver.
Definitely.
Why didn't I think of that?
That would be the Canadian version.
Yeah, it would be. Well, that was the caribou reference.
Anyway, there's a little bit like the difference between, like, to counter that, old Australian MasterChef episodes. There was a very famous one it's gone global, but like Matt Preston, who's one of the judges there, had a tasting once where he tasted the food, took the plate and threw it on the ground and went, "That was disgusting." Paused and went, "Disgustingly good." And it's like, no.
None of the other judges got to taste it, did they? Like,
no,
it was
just on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's bad enough when they say, "I don't like this," and then go, "I love it."
No.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. The drama.
But don't throw it on the ground.
No.
You get drama from other things. Naturally derived drama is so much better than artificially manufactured
Exactly.
drama.
Absolutely. And
Exactly.
you want to be you want to be on the side of the person experiencing that tension. You don't want to be against them, like, "Oh, you're going to muck up and schadenfreude."
No, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Baking fail or baking success? Do you prefer watching those intense moments of disaster or the triumph in baking shows?
Success.
Yeah.
We want to see the best of the best. We want to see people succeed and just have, comparing apples to apples, not apples to burnt offerings.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's awesome when everybody, and then because it comes down to who actually should win the challenge, right? So it's not by default somebody's winning this. Everybody performs so well, and especially in the finales.
It's another one of my things, but that's why I'm not a big fan of when they do either a heritage week or one of those things, because whose heritage are we talking? Mm-hmm. And so are you judging by the same standard? There was one here where they asked the Australian bakers to do a challenge from their childhood, an Australian bake from their childhood, but 3/4 of the cast came from overseas. And so, like, there were a bunch of people who wanted to do lamingtons because that was the first bake they knew of, and they had to sort of go, "You've got to do something different." But if you set the week up for that, that's what you're going to get. It's not a fair comparison. So we want fair comparisons because we want success.
Exactly. Yeah.
There have been some problematic themes.
Luckily, with Canadian, there's less of them than there are in a couple of other series. There's no Mexican week. There's no Japanese week.
Spice. We had Spice Week last.
Yeah, but no Japanese week and no Mexican week. So you're ahead.
Mexican
No.
week.
I think the free from week was one that seemed to cause some issues, but I think I would have really enjoyed that week.
Yeah.
Free from gluten, free
Yeah, the
from
free from week,
dairy, I would have
yeah.
had fun with that.
The free from
Yeah.
week was interesting, but that was
Yeah.
when they did the trifles. But they talked about free from sugar, but they didn't specify that it was free from added sugars, processed sugars.
Not
So
fructose.
you could
Because
still
one
use
of
Processed
the
sugars, yes.
because one of the bakers who produced their trifle put it in a jar that was about the size
Yeah.
of a small human, and I don't care if you didn't put any added refined sugars in there.
If you've got diabetes,
Not a hope.
you're not going to be able to eat it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Ugh. Signature bake or technical challenge? Which do you think reveals the most about a baker's skills?
Signature.
Technical.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
divided.
I think signature because
Debate.
it's signature because it's relying more on that person's ability to create, like to think kind of outside the box, but what's going to work with the base recipe or the base, brief that they're being
Right.
given.
Right. The brief that
Yeah.
they're given.
And also get a little bit of a chance to make it look good too. Whereas
For me, with the technical, the reason
Right.
I like the technical more on that, and again, I know that I'm largely in a minority when it comes to a lot of people now, because the technical is getting less and less important, I feel, and it's being pushed to the side a little bit more. Don't know if it's necessarily a deliberate thing, but I think there's a lot of, you want things to look good on TV, and the technicals are often not that focus.
Yeah.
But for me, the technical is about, every now and then you see what I call a brief that is far too open. And so that again, we talked about even comparisons. And
okay.
I think the briefs at times can be too open, and I like the technical because it's about, you've all got the same thing,
Mhm.
you've got to get to the same
Restrictions,
endpoint, and
Yeah.
it's about understanding process. And so I think you see more about, and sometimes people don't follow the process they're supposed to, but get the same result because they've done something that's a different way of getting there. And I like seeing that.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that
Yeah. That's
I
a
think
really
too
fair
much
answer.
about the show. You should know this by now.
Not enough.
that's
about
why
it.
you're here.
It's a great thing. And I think that yes, we live, eat, sleep, and breathe this show. So
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
That's the way we go. All
So,
good.
do you prefer homemade treats or store-bought ones?
Homemade.
Yeah, homemade.
Homemade. You can taste the difference.
Yeah.
Like my mum, I'd say God rest her soul, but like she wasn't religious. I will never find her a caramel slice ever again. It's very similar to what's it called, a millionaire
shortbread.
shortbread, because of the way she made it. It's just like there's more to a homemade treat than there is a store bought one.
And I just like
It's the love.
Yeah, and I like the idea too that the bake doesn't always taste the exact same every time you do it. That every time you do it, you refine it a little bit, or you play with it a little bit, or you do something slightly different a little bit, based on how you're feeling, and sort of. Whereas the other ones, they're mass produced, and a lot of the time the flavor's lacking.
Yeah,
and you just get something that's overly sweetened to give you the feeling that you should be enjoying this, rather than the actual taste.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good answer. I really like that answer. Okay, binge watch or weekly release of your favorite baking
Binge.
shows? You'd rather sit down and watch
Well, I
the whole
do.
season?
But
They do both.
That was not
do
the
both.
question. I know you do.
I'm going to say I like the weekly release
you do weekly, yeah.
because it just prolongs.
Yeah.
Like I've got no impulse control.
The anticipation.
My brain is wired to not have any control. I will binge watch. You bring up Bridgerton for even one part, and I'll sit down and watch it in the afternoon. So I do like that kind of, and being able to mull over it and take it in. And
see, for
Yeah.
me,
Immerse
I binge and take notes. So I binge and rewatch several times.
That makes sense.
So
Yeah.
I'm just used to that flow on now.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
that's one.
I usually, I think, would be a binge watcher. Like, I like to sit down, and because the only time I ever really watch TV is when I'm sick and lying on the couch, and then I can just watch, like, what is it? Love is Blind or something. The only things that I religiously watch are Survivor for 20 some years now. It used to be every Thursday, now it's every Wednesday. And I look forward to my Survivor every single week. and then also the Great Canadian Baking Show every week. I binge watch the ones that, all the past
Yeah.
seasons and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I will sit down and or I'll fall asleep to Great British Bake Off every single night, and then go, where did I leave off yesterday? But the anticipation of, there's a new episode, and then I get to bake something else, because I bake
Yeah.
to every single bake every week. Yeah, it's going to be so busy
Yeah.
this season, because we're going to be
Podcasting
doing
and
a podcast about it. And
Wait till I start getting you to bake to Australian as well.
you know what? I need a challenge. Give me a challenge. I'll take it.
maybe we could do a divide and conquer.
Yeah, we can do that.
And the seasons are different too, aren't they?
That
The
Australian?
Australian Bake Off is not.
Yeah,
They're not at the same time.
are they?
I don't
This
think.
year it might end up being around. We hope they're different, because that's a lot of work. But
And I've got a new act coming out, and it's not quite ready yet.
I know that, and this isn't a spoiler, because it's well known. I know that the most recent series, the one coming up of Australian, has been filmed and in the can since end of last year. So they're waiting to, and the talk is after sort of late winter into spring here. So they might be on at the same time, which would be chaos.
They might.
That would be chaos.
That would be chaos.
I don't know how we're going to do that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Because I know they're casting, and this isn't again a secret, because they've put it out on their socials. They're casting now, so they're
the next season. Wow.
So Lisa, maybe you can go become an Aussie citizen for.
Yeah, just get out here and do that.
Live in Australia for a year.
I want to do Canadian.
It's a lovely.
I don't want to do it.
It's a lovely
anywhere
park
else.
where they film.
It's
a lovely park where they film. It's beautiful.
I would love to come down there and bake in the shed.
It's the grounds of an old hospital.
Oh no! I've had too many hospitals.
You'd be right at home.
And
You'd be
interestingly
so
enough,
familiar.
and my little fun.
They're taking everybody's blood pressure, checking their
My little
dilation.
fun fact about the shed is that it's a tent
Made
with
to
the
look like a
sides
shed.
on it. But we didn't know that. Even when we went for the first time to the grand final, it looks like they've built a shed, and it is literally a tent, which
Really?
is so shed-like that it looks like they've constructed a solid building.
Wow.
Even when you're there, you can't tell.
Does it get just as hot?
Yeah, they've got full sides open on both sides, so the doors open on both sides.
Yeah.
The floor is very springy though, and they used to have a problem with the oven doors bouncing. So,
Oh man. Okay, that's not good.
No.
All right, where were
we're
we?
on. Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay, you ready for this one?
Sure.
And I think we kind of covered some, so I have a pretty good idea of how you're going to answer this one. But
No disclaimers.
matcha or yuzu?
yuzu.
Yeah, you.
See, that was just
I-
too easy.
Genuinely, I love
Maybe we
you.
should. Maybe
I
we should have
actually love
done.
you, but it was more about the overuse of it. But I love
Matcha
you.
or Nickelback?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that. I was like, maybe I should have changed that to say
Neither.
matcha or Nickelback.
Neither.
What's with the hate on Nickelback?
You can't see.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's just a thing. I put it down to I don't like the vibe of it, Your Honor. Like it's just not my.
I put a lot of it down to as well, and again, I don't know if they never got this character over there in Canada, but I do suggest you look up the Paddle Pop Lion.
Oh yeah.
And you look up Chad Kroger and the Paddle Pop Lion.
So
and
paddle
they-
pops are like popsicles
Yeah,
that you could
they're
get as a
popsicles.
kid.
And the
Okay.
mascot for the Paddle Pop
Okay.
is a lion. And if you look at Chad
Lion.
Kroger with his long hair and the Paddle Pop Lion,
The
they
blonde
are
hair.
the same.
Okay, so
And you didn't like those popsicles?
this is the paddle pop
Oh
line.
yeah, look at that. I see
Yeah.
it.
And people put side by sides of Chad Kroger and the Paddle Pop Lion. Kind of says a lot.
But did you not like your childhood and eating those
I like
lovely
Paddle
ice
Pop.
pops?
Loved it.
Yeah.
He ruins
And
it.
he
I think
ruins it. Okay.
I
but you
mean,
don't like
okay,
Lisa, or
guys,
is it
but-
Chad?
No, okay. So what it
Yeah.
is that there is basically one kind of rock station in Sydney. Like we have a very small music
Yes.
before streaming came along. And this rock station got obsessed with Nickelback. So like every second song would be Nickelback, when there are amazing Australian bands, so much other good, like the Tea Party. They could have got obsessed with the Tea Party. Or what's that one that you like with the other dude?
The Tragically Hip.
The Tragically
Oh,
Hip.
tragically, yep.
Yeah, like there are so many other
Could have got obsessed
Yeah.
with Tragically
better
Hip.
Canadian bands to mix into that
Yes.
I think would have tempered it, but not this particular station. So when you
It was only
So it's
Nickelback.
just overplayed.
Yeah.
That's
It's
all
like
you
matcha.
heard.
It's like matcha. It's
It's
overused.
like matcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if you had to make that choice between matcha and Nickelback,
Okay, I would.
matcha bakes or listening to the odd Nickelback song?
Okay, so I would take the Nickelback, and my reasoning behind taking the Nickelback over the matcha is, first of all, I watched them do a thing online with people listening to their songs, and they make fun of themselves a bit too, so I'm cool with that.
okay,
Also, I do watch wrestling, and for years they were the theme of Monday Night Raw, so I've heard a lot of Nickelback, so I'm okay with that one. That's fine.
Okay, cool. Good,
Okay.
good. Because that
All
hate
right.
for Nickelback extends to Canada.
Oh, it
It's
does.
a
I know it
love
does.
hate. It's a total love
Yeah.
hate thing,
It
right?
does.
So it's
Yeah.
a very polarized. We should maybe, we'll see how we can spin it in our leave it or love it or
Wait,
leave it.
Nickelback.
Can't wait.
Or baking
love it.
I'm gonna see how we can spin that into a baking theme.
I can't wait.
Love it or leave it. But
I'm trying to equate it because, like, our childhood, we had pudding pops, right?
Mm.
And I mean, who was the spokesperson for that? Was Bill Cosby. So
And you can adopt our paddle pop line, and then you can base the flavors. There was banana,
Chad
there was
Kroger.
chocolate caramel, there's rainbow.
I am resisting the urge to do
Rainbow.
my puts the pudding in the pop, because no, we don't need to do that. We can move on. Yeah.
Oh
All
my
right.
gosh.
Lisa,
We have one last question for you.
Yep.
Butter tarts, raisins, or
Oh, you know
no
the answer to
raisins?
this one. No raisins.
I'll
Well, we've had some interesting. Go ahead,
look.
Kristie.
I'll take raisins. I'll take any tart. I'm a tart. fan.
Yay! Okay.
Give it to me any way you want. Like raisins, no raisins. I'm a tart for tarts.
we're all tarts for
Tart
tarts.
for tart. That works.
That's
That
awesome.
works. We've had some interesting moments over the last few weeks with our discussions about raisins
no
and butter
raisins.
tarts because
No raisins.
Yeah,
I discovered I like them.
on
It
They
every
was
one
ruin
of
a
our
perfectly good
podcasts,
tart. They ruin a perfectly good tart.
I don't disagree with you.
You had it
At all.
sorted, and then yeah, you go.
And now
you
you're
do
eating. Now you're eating your
Mm.
butter tart,
that.
which looks really, really good. Perfect caramelization on that one.
Just pick the
Oh.
raisins out.
Look,
Um,
Right?
and it's gluten free.
Wonderful. It's like 20 years ago, if you said raisins or no
Perfect.
raisins, I'd be like, oh, I don't want raisins. But these days, I love a bit of
Mhm.
raisin toast for breakfast.
Raisin
I can
toast
drive
is good.
through.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can get a nice thick slice of it with real butter from a very well-known chain
Mm.
for breakfast, because we have a cafe that has a Mick in front of it.
I mean, we did
And they
give the
do
world-
raisin toast.
We did
Yeah,
give the world.
Australia.
We did actually give the world McCafe. That's a genuine thing that
Yeah.
came from the Australian McDonald's.
Really?
And my friend worked at the first one in
Wild.
Broadway. Yeah.
Wow.
No, McCafe was when McDonald's were in massive trouble. They were reaching around for ideas, and Australia had done it, and it's a proper
Mhm.
cafe style they do.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they went, "That's a great
Wow.
idea," and took it global.
Nice. Oh, that's very
They
good.
don't have raisin
No.
toast though at our
I
McDonald's.
don't think so.
I'll then just
unfortunately.
We have-
my
We just go to Timmy's
Yeah, you
for
got Tim
that.
Hortons.
yeah.
Yeah,
We
we
got
do.
Tim Hortons. We don't have Tim Hortons.
I'm
so-
looking forward to Tim Hortons. Like, I love a good donut, so
Yeah.
I'm
There are, you know what? If you come to Vancouver, there are so many better donut places.
Better
I'll
donut.
take you there. I'll take you to all the good donut places.
no, what will I do with all these donuts?
There are better ones,
Oh.
but there are better ones.
I mean-
like Timbits just because.
Don't get me wrong. Tim Horton donuts
Yes,
are decent. They're good, right?
Mhm.
But there's so many other great little donut places.
I feel like I need to do the list though from How I Met Your Mother. You know, when they ask, where were you when you found out, or when you heard that Robin Sparkles became Robin Daggers? Like, where were you and what Tim
The
Hortons?
Canadian can tell you what Tim Hortons they were eating.
Probably. Yeah. Or actually, when Princess
Oh,
Diana died, we were at a Dairy Queen. So, yeah. So an ice cream place
Oh.
here in Canada. So that's
So
where we first found out. So yeah, it does. And you know, when Queen Elizabeth died, we were in a restaurant in Nice in France. We're
Wow.
traveling.
100% equates to Robin
Yeah,
Sparkles.
100%. It's exactly the same thing. Completely.
Almost
I
the
like
same.
I like the way you
Sorry.
explained where you were when Queen Elizabeth died, like it was an alibi. No, we were in Nice.
We were in Nice. It
We're in
wasn't us.
Nice.
We were in France. Wasn't us.
I was nowhere near Balmoral. I promise
Wasn't
you.
us.
Kills me. I know who
You know,
kills
one-
me.
Aw. But what a,
She's
that was a sad,
from the
that
grave.
was a sad day. I think that
It was
yeah.
a sad day. Wait, it was a long time coming though.
it wasn't. Yeah,
I mean,
she
like she not like that.
I know what you meant, but I love the way you said it. It was a long time coming.
That's exactly what I said.
It
Was there,
Queen
was there
Elizabeth
Irish?
or Betty
Was
White.
there Irish heritage coming out there? Just
No.
checking.
I have no Irish heritage
I thought we
whatsoever.
checked there.
Good plan to check. Anyway, I was going to tell you my Robin Sparkles
Go.
story because it's not really a Robin Sparkles story, but
Fell in
it
love with
is
Paul Schaefer?
it's
She's baby beaver.
maybe I don't remember. No, back it up.
beep, beep,
Um,
beep.
Kobe Smulders, who
Mm-hmm.
played Robin, she's from around here, and her sister actually worked with me in a healthcare
Oh.
facility. She was, yeah. So her sister Fiona and I worked together for a few years. She got to be an extra on the show, so that was really fun. We watched it together. And then on my first trip to New York, I got to go to Broadway, and we went to the place where you can do the I don't know, that's off sales,
Yep.
cheaper shows,
Yeah.
whatever. And so we got whatever happened to be playing that day. And it happened to be a play with Kobe Smulders in it. And so I was sitting in the second row and I opened up my phone and texted Fiona, who's now a doctor. Hadn't talked to her in years. And I'm like, hey, guess where I am? I'm in New York and I'm watching your sister on stage on
So
Broadway.
cool.
And it was just kind of crazy.
I love
Yeah.
Robin.
Anyway, that was kind of my 6 degrees of separation. I
Yeah,
love Robin
she's
too. She's
that
fun.
show was just
She's a
yeah, I
character.
love that show actually. It was
There's lots of dogs.
so good. It was one of our favorites. Actually, it was one of my son's favorites as well. So we used to binge watch
Yeah,
all
mine
of the
too.
episodes and yeah.
I just pretend
So
that
funny.
I just pretend that the final episode stops about halfway through, and we don't finish
The
it.
final episode.
Yeah.
We get to the point where everything's going really well, and we just cut it there because the rest of the story sucks. But you know,
There's a lot of shows that you have to do that with, though.
To be
I
fair-
mean, I don't know. I'm still really up in the air about Lost. I think the
don't be up
second
in the air
time
about
watching
it.
it
It's-
through, I
yeah,
like.
no.
I hated it the first time. I was so mad, and the second time I was like, okay, maybe.
I never
you know,
watched it.
Generally
I
speaking,
did like that when the guy who wrote,
well, I
I
have
did
it.
like that when the guy who wrote Dexter, like when the finale of How I Met Your Mother happened, he put out a tweet going, "Thank you for stopping me being the worst ending of a show of all time."
Yeah, Dexter.
And
That's
since then,
another
everyone
not
from How I
so
Met
great
Your Mother
one.
has come out and gone, "Yeah, we didn't really like the last episode and the way that went, but they had a vision and they stuck to it, and even
Yeah.
when they should have pivoted, the problem
Yeah.
was they
Yeah.
cast the mother too well, and that was the problem. And then
Yeah.
they
Yeah, they
rushed
did.
the ending.
They did.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
Controversially, I
Yeah.
do like the ending of Game of Thrones. Just saying.
Yeah,
Just-
controversially,
Yeah, because that's
so do
another
I.
love it or leave it.
yeah, controversially,
And I don't know that
controversially,
one.
so do I.
Never
I actually
watched
really
it.
like the way they ended Game of Thrones, and I thought it made perfect sense. And I'm in a minority, and
I will just
Yeah.
agree with you because
And
I
Game of
trust you.
Thrones for me, we used to watch it. I watched about half of an episode of every single episode when my husband watched it.
Yeah.
I would fall asleep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did the same thing on the finale.
makes sense.
oh,
I
so
have
you
no idea how it
you're fine
ended.
with how it ended.
I agreed with the way it ended, but the last part of it's just admin. So it
All I
really
remember,
was.
it was really dark. The whole episode
Yeah,
was
the whole
really
last
dark,
series, they turned the brightness way down.
way down. You couldn't even see it. You're like,
I
okay,
did
I know I'm
auto-correct the
getting
TV at
old,
that point in
but
time. To turn the TV brightness up.
It's like when you're gaming, it's like, adjust the brightness so you can barely see this logo. It's like, no, you're not.
Turn it
I'm
up.
going cave dwelling. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Spelunking. Well, we were hoping that you would give a little bit of a different type of baking scrap. So we usually ask our guests for a baking scrap, which is like a tip or a trick, baking tip or trick for our listeners. But we were hoping actually that the two of you would give us newbie podcasters a podcasting scrap.
You want to go first?
I think just do it to please yourself. You know, podcasting is a brilliant medium that I think people forget is not about the audience. It's about inviting the audience in to get to know you and what you've got to share. That's why people want to listen. If we want to listen to, you know, impersonal like banter, we go to the radio because that's what that's for. And so,
Right.
you know, I love when you listen to a podcast and they've got in jokes. I love it when you go to a podcast and they just go on little tangents and you find out little snippets of their life. Like, not enough to go like
Yes.
stalk them in London or anything.
Yeah.
But, you know.
That'd be bad.
Look at Christina's
That'd be bad.
face.
Don't do that.
When I go to Australia, you're next.
Yeah, cool. I'm not leaving some cool shit around, so you actually be actually interested in what I've got to do.
We know what the miscellaneous
between the
city is
tassels.
now.
You're in.
You're not heading to Adelaide anytime soon. Wouldn't want to. Oh, you might. Your mates are there. That's the biggest serial killer capital of Australia. Oh no! I'm insulting you. I'm so sorry. I took that too far. Stalking is not serial killing.
Oh. So I'll move on.
Maybe it starts with stalking.
Start again.
But
That's
I'll do your research. That's why I could never be one.
So
Just don't care.
to drag us out of the darkness from which we've
Please.
just entered.
Thank you.
A little bit of
Never.
echoing what Kristie sort of said then, but don't feel like you need to do it in someone else's voice. Don't feel like there's a right way to do it. There are lots of people who will listen to us once and go, don't like that. You should do blah. You should do blah. And the answer is, we'll go listen to people that do that.
Yeah.
Do what's going to make you feel comfortable. And if you are comfortable with the way you are, especially if you're then interviewing other people, they will be more comfortable with who you are. And they will be, the more comfortable everyone is, the more they open up and the more people will talk. And if, in terms of just briefly with Bake Off again, I always go back to what said Nicole Rogers, the first Australian executive producer, said, love the bakers, love the bakes. You can disagree with the structure of a bake. You can disagree with a criteria of a bake, but it's not about the baker, and it's never about the baker. It's always about critiquing what they do and trying to find the positives in what they're doing, because they're doing something that's really damn hard, because if it was easy, everyone would.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Excellent advice.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for being
It's
here.
an absolute pleasure. and an
Thanks for
absolute
having
delight.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love it. It has been so much fun. I mean, I think we could probably talk for hours again. And then we would make Phil and my Chris watch it and
And
they
fall
would
asleep.
say it. And we fall asleep.
That'd be fantastic.
No, they would find us enjoyable because we're talking in our own
Exactly.
voices.
They get
They
it.
would love it.
They understand it.
Well, and until next time, I'm still Lisa.
I'm still Cristina.
We're still Chris or Kristie.
You can get this news.
And you
still
must be
Chris.
Kristie.
And you're still Chris. Yeah, I didn't warn you that was coming, but
All you have to say is your name.
Shouldn't be difficult. It shouldn't be difficult.
We say that.
names are
They
hard.
are. Life is hard. There's too many Chris
did well.
around. I forgot which one I was.
Exactly. It's confusing.
okay.
Chris, Kristie, Cristina,
It's not the
and then
first time
Lisa.
that's
There's
happened.
too many.
That's
No,
not
Lisa
the
had-
first time that's happened.
It's not. So you have
So
edited.
you shouldn't have been surprised.
No, that's not editing. We start, and it's the first thing we say. So if that doesn't go well, we just start again.
It's easy to cut
that's
that
easy
part.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
But
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
been such a pleasure speaking with both of you, and thank you so much for your time and generosity and your sharing and your laughter and the joy that you're bringing to us
Yeah.
today and to our listeners today too.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for
thank
bringing
you.
us on to share.
It's wonderful to be able to sort of come on and sort of talk to you and like watch this develop,
Nerd out.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And
We wish you
we
luck, but you don't bloody need
Thank
it.
you.
You're going to be rocking it like Nickelback.
oh, you
Oh,
guys are so
better.
sweet. And we look forward to seeing you on your Canadian tour of the Washing Up podcast on tour.
Oh,
Yeah,
that'll be
maybe.
fantastic when it happens. Oh, it's coming.
When it happens, yes. Oh, it's not
No,
happening.
it's
Okay,
coming. It's
well,
We'll
definitely
make it
coming.
happen.
We'll make it
okay.
happen.
Okay, I thought you said, "Oh, it's not happening." I was like,
No, to
"This
bring it
has
back, to
happen."
bring everything back to Steve, because it should. He'll kill us if we don't. So
There you go. And it's all about Steve, right?
all about
Yeah.
Steve.
All about Steve. And maybe Vincent a little.
Tagline. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tour poster.
Yeah, you really just need to have Vincent plan your tour
Yep.
for you with his
Oh,
Excel
it'd be
All
perfect.
spreadsheet.
the color coding.
Don't do it with Steve. Steve's got Post-its all
Yeah.
over his kitchen.
But-
That's not a
But
good way
here's
to
the
plan
thing.
a tour.
Vincent and having everything by minute by minute by minute, there is not a chance.
No, you
No.
can't do that. That is not the washing
No,
up
it's not
way.
how we do things.
Fair enough.
No, it
So
doesn't.
maybe
Carolina, are we
Steve.
flying from the seat of our pants? Like,
Perfect.
Our pen.
It's the only way to do that.
I
I mean,
always
look,
say that.
Lisa and I started this podcast about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
We basically talked about it. We should just do this. Ideas from our
Yeah.
husband when we were disappointed yet again for not making it onto the Great
But that's
Canadian
how you do
Baking
it.
Show.
But that's how you do it. If you overthink it and
Yeah.
overplan it, it's not as good.
Yeah, so it's been a fun, wild ride, and I couldn't think of anybody better than Lisa to be partner in crime in doing this with.
Aww.
It has been so good. I'm very tired. Very, very tired, and very, very much learning all the technical stuff, but it has been
The technical
so,
stuff is
so,
fun.
so
As
much
I
fun.
said to you, I did laugh a lot with the outtake of the recording with Steve with no volume. That was it happened. It really happens.
Yes.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. We never did a re-recording
No.
of that, but that's okay. It worked out fine.
It was good.
I have no voice.
Oh, go rest up, my friend.
Go rest.
Yeah, go rest. Yeah.
All right,
And-
thank you so much, guys.
I'm gonna make some tea. I should definitely make some
good
tea,
idea. Not
And
much.
Not in the microwave.
but I will not do it in the
No.
microwave.
Keep it properly.
100%, I promise. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Thanks,
Have
guys.
over, Kettle. Thank you so
Thanks,
much. Have
guys.
a great
Mwah.
day.
I will see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Can't wait to hear all about it.
Bye.
Bye. Wow.
That was so much fun.
They're so awesome. I really enjoyed that.
I think
What was your favorite
my
part?
favorite part, the whole thing was so great. I really enjoyed
It was.
speaking with them. I love when we went off on all these other tangents, like we,
Tangents. I was like,
questions. I would look at Oh.
hang on, I can't hear you.
I mean,
Okay,
I mean,
hi.
they're such pioneers, or doing this, and
They're paving
They
the way
are.
for us for what we are hoping to do. Not the same way
No,
that they do it, but just to be able to lay those facts
exactly
down.
right. And I think we're kind of their path is so interesting with what they're doing, because their whole idea is really the critique of the show and the bakes and week by week. We'll probably
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that as the season unfolds as well, but probably not to the
Yeah.
extent that they're doing it. But who knows? We'll
But
see. We'll see
differently.
where it goes. I mean, it's fluid,
how it goes.
and we'll pivot and whatnot. But I just think it was just such a fun conversation, and just the laughter and the joy. And again, we talk about the baking community, and we spoke about that during the podcast as well, of just how generous everybody is and how gracious everybody is. And it's the beauty of everything. It's the beauty of Bake Off, bringing everybody, and not just in Canada, but now internationally. We've got this international family.
Yeah, celebrating this together. Yeah, it's been really awesome.
Yeah.
I am so, so grateful that we had the opportunity to do that. And now I'm really going to go
You
rest
should,
my voice
and get some good food
for a while.
as well. And yes,
Yes. And I hope you have an excellent, awesome
you
night.
as well, my dear. Have a great weekend and enjoy.
You too.
Feel better.
I'll have a butter tart for you.